There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end it was clear, hit the fan. I was more than one man who was there to lend a hand. Together we'd stand, always had my back, my guardian soldier. Team pulled together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak straight through the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride, 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 ride. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
Welcome back, Moto fans, to another episode of ProMX Between the Rounds. Before we get started, a massive shout out to our partners here at Mental for Moto. Death Grip Products, Works Racing, who have just released a new range of goggles featuring magnetic lenses, and they look absolutely sick. Southeast Pools, Bolt Everywhere Premium Race Gear. I've got a couple of sets of Bolt lined up, and I cannot wait to get my hands on them. Iro helmets, 5 gloves, Wolf Building Compliance, and Graphics by Aqua, which are simply the best looking graphics and jersey prints in the business. If you haven't checked them out, make sure you do so. Get onto their website and have a look at all the products that they offer, because they will have you looking lit. Now let's get into it. We've got an absolutely amazing show lined up for you guys. Joining us a little later for a chat, we have MX1 red plate holder, Honda Australia's Cole Webster, Empire Kawasaki's Taylah McCutcheon, following her impressive return to the ProMX scene at Toowoomba, as well as MX2 racer Connar Adams to tell us about his season so far and what it's been like being part of the new Winner Motorcycles race team. And last but certainly not least, joining me in studio to keep my waffle in check, boating straight over from Privateer Island into the studio, Zane Backpack McIntosh. How you going, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back in the house.
Yeah, you were pretty rough up in Toowoomba. You had a bit of tonsillitis, mate. How's the recovery been?
Yeah, it's been good. I didn't ride. I pretty much did nothing after Toowoomba the whole week, and then started coming good on Friday, and have ridden once. But yeah, still just kind of resting a little bit. Not quite 100%, but getting there. So trying to save some of the energy for Queensland. Go out swinging for these last two.
Yeah. Well, before we get into some of the talking points of the championship, between rounds 3 to 6, what's your season been like so far?
It's actually been pretty good. It's we started off kind of where I expected to be. I was a bit behind the 8 ball, and I've ended up in a pretty good spot, knocking on the door of the top 20 every week, and managed to score points in Murray Bridge. So happy to end up on that championship leaderboard at the end of the year. So, but I've actually had a great year so far. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, now that you're a championship points recipient, do you still agree with points back down to 40th?
Yeah, stuff them. Stuff all those guys. Absolutely. Because it definitely makes it a better battle for the back of the pack guys. Gives us, something extra to chase.
Yeah. I was chatting to Elijah Weezy, and he said he was talking to someone in the pits at Murray Bridge, and he said, you came riding in, he said you were on the limiter, like, bah! And he goes, like he kind of flinched a little bit, and he was like, oh, is something wrong with Zane? And then he was looking at you and he goes, there's something either very wrong or very right. And then he said he could hear you screaming into your helmet, I got points, baby, I got points.
Yeah, no, I was pretty over the moon. Funny enough, the pit board broke in the van on the way up. Yeah. So I was pit boardless out the moto. So I had no idea I was even in points until I come in.
Oh, really?
And I seen Dad just before the pit, and he's like, points. So I come into the pits, and a few of the boys were there, so I let the cowbunga bark and gave her a bit of limmy, and everyone was just staring at me. They're like, who the hell is this guy who just come nearly last?
Won a championship.
Yeah, I had the biggest celebration out of everyone. So yeah, no.
So is that the first time you scored points?
I scored points in MX3, but it's the first time in MX2 that I've scored points.
Well, it's a pretty good achievement. So of the tracks that we've had, what's been your favourite so far, and what's been your least favourite, and why?
Murray Bridge. That was That's
Your
kind of
favourite?
favorite 100%. That was kind of I was loving that track all day. I was actually nearly wish I could have gone out for a third moto. They prepped it really well. It was pretty deep in the morning, but it formed up so well and it was super racy in my opinion. I'd have to probably go Horsham as my least favourite just because they didn't quite get the track prep right and it was super slippery and didn't quite really form up the best. They redeemed it a little bit at the lunchtime break, but yeah, it was definitely the worst track so far, I reckon, because we've had some pretty good tracks all year.
Yeah, Murray Bridge is it's a bit of an enigma in terms of like what the surface is. It kind of looks sandy. It acts a little bit like clay. It sticks together. And every rider I've spoken to sort of given me a bit of a different description. Like how would you describe the surface out there? Because it was weird. It's so sticky and it formed up. It held the ruts, but it's kind of sandy, loamy.
Yeah, no, it's probably the closest thing you can get to the Wanty Nationals. Like they formed up pretty similar, but yeah, it's got it's got clay through the top section where it kind of rutted up like real ruts, and then it drops to sand kind of a little bit lower down near the start. But then as you come across the start straight, it was proper hard pack. It didn't really form up, so it was you kind of had like 3 or 4 surfaces in the one.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favourite tracks until Toowoomba to watch the racing and see the racing. Though because of the layout out on the track, I didn't get to see a lot of it because it's such a spread out track and the elevation sort of makes it hard to see a lot of the track at once. But from a photography point of view, that was my least favourite because that red dirt and the low sun there, like that was an absolute nightmare to get good shots. I think I'd much rather that track as a spectator than as a photographer out there.
Yeah, no, I actually spoke to a few of the boys that were shooting there, and they were saying that it was a bit of a rough gig on the weekend at Murray Bridge. But yeah, it's funny, none of us riders would ever think like the dirt colour or the lighting has much effect. You know what I mean? We were pumped, a bit of overcast, track was easy to see, and then all the photographers were pulling their hair out.
Well, it's crazy because you look at the track and it's got like a reddish tinge in the dirt, but the camera picks it up and kind of amplifies it. And so every photo was sort of blown out red. It makes, the especially white gear look red, and it was just horrible. But the Cowies were actually all right. The green seems to balance the white balance in the camera out. So all the Empire guys and you, I like shooting you guys. But Hondas and KTMs on the red dirt, that was a disaster. Yeah,
Webster in his red gear on a red bike would have been a bit hard. It would have just been a blur. But glad to hear the cows were popping.
Yeah, it's like taking photos inside the Honda tent. It's like everything in there is red. There is
nothing.
Red bike,
colour.
Red floor, red background. Yep, red truck,
red.
Yep, yeah. But it's all a bit of fun. So we just had Toowoomba. What was your thoughts there? That was one of the gnarliest, ruttiest tracks I've seen, and probably my favourite track so far as a spectator. The elevation there, you see everything. Like I just said, when you're out on the track taking photos, you don't always get to see a lot of the racing, and you only sort of see sections. But out there, I could see everything. I could see the battles. I love tracks with elevation. I love Ballarat at the Vicks. And Toowoomba was just, again, a step up from that. So what was Toowoomba like?
It was unreal. It was easily the gnarliest track of the year so far. It was normally it's always going to be ruddy. It's Toowoomba. It's known for it. But it was, I think, rougher, a little bit more bumpy and choppy in spots where it wasn't last year. Like last year was a little bit smoother and nicer, and the ruts kind of flowed pretty good, where this year everything was kind of hooked out and choppy and a fair bit more technical.
Yep.
Especially coming down at the bottom of the Matterhorn. It was real soft. Obviously, water had been sitting there all day Saturday, and coming down there first lap of practice in Sunday, and let's just say a few of us, I've seen a few boys get pretty squirrely coming through there. So I think that slowed up the Matterhorn and a few things. But it was actually really technical. So I think there was a few big crashes throughout the weekend and people pushing, but it was definitely a sick track, but I definitely was kind of happy that was a round I was sick for.
Yeah. Yeah, with the level of the ruts there and the way that the track formed up, like watching, especially the super fast guys, like your your Cole Webster and Jed Beaton and Nato Crawford. And Nato Crawford comes to mind because the corner, so you come down the Matterhorn, you've got that left-hand hairpin, and then you come back up that hill, and you've got that right-hander. He was railing that berm and coming into ruts on the downhill again towards that Tabo. And he was going so fast around that corner, and I'm like, there is no way that he can see those ruts because they're right on the exit of the corner as he's coming around to pick one. And he was picking a different rut each time, and it was just the level of commitment on a track like that with those sorts of ruts. What's that like to try to go fast?
It's scary. I mean, those boys do it on a little bit of a bigger level than I do. But yeah, no, definitely it was hard with spots like that, especially that spot, and that uphill was so hard to get a consistent rut, especially when you're coming over some of the jumps and you're landing in ruts. So you just got to kind of have faith and just hope that, you know, squeeze with the legs, keep the thing pinned and hope it doesn't step out. And but
that was my question. Like, when you come around a corner like that, do you actually have a plan, or is it just a case of rail the corner and like you said, trust your technique and trust the bike's going to be pointing in the direction that you want it to when you hit that rut?
You've kind of got a rut that you've picked, but you can feel which rut you're going to end up in. And then I kind of just scan and see if I've got a hole or a kicker or something that I got to really be concerned with. And if it's semi-nice, I just try and keep the thing tapped and just hold on.
Yeah.
You kind of, there was definitely a few of those jumps where you're coming over and you've like got half a second where to spot which rut you actually landed in. And then, but I think Kyle and that literally would come over to some of those singles, just pinned and go, oh, that's right, I'm in.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just they just trust that they've got the skill and the ability and the bike's going to do what they want it to do. And like you said, they just hold it pinned. Yeah. Blows me away.
Yeah, no, it was kind of okay because a few of the ruts, well, 3 or 4 of the ruts would all lead into one in the corner. So your corner rut, you still had a pretty good pick over, but coming over some of those downhills, you were kind of scrubbed a little too hard one way, or the bike stepped out a little bit, and you're definitely not picking every rut as you'd like.
Well, not to digress, because we'll get on and we'll have a chat about the MX1 class. But just while we're on the topics of ruts, Matty Simpson in the MXW class, there was a fairly big tabletop running, if you're from the spectator area, from left to right, the middle of the track there. And most of the riders were jumping that, landing at the top of the down ramp so they could sort of line themselves up for the ruts in that valley, because they were super deep and they were basically across the whole track. And for about 5 or 6 laps in a row, she was sending that thing, like that tabletop, and landing in those ruts. No one else was doing it. I didn't see it in any other class. And, just that level of commitment, because those ruts down there, they look deep. What was that like?
Yeah, they were actually some gnarly ruts. I was kind of sticking to the left-hand side because the rut formed a little bit later. It wasn't quite as nice of a rut. It was a little bit off-cambered and some things, but I had a little bit of a wider opening into the rut, which was nice. But full respect to her, because that was one of the gnarliest sections.
Yeah.
But a few of those jumps you're coming over and you're just like, oop, I think I'm landing in that one, and just going for it. But
I actually asked. I figured that it must have been her local track, and she's just done that enough times to know that she can. And and then I found out she's from New South Wales, so. Well, it led to her first podium, so good on her.
Good on her, paid off.
Yeah. All right, we'll get back to the MX1 class. So obviously everyone knows how the championship's going. It's Cole Webster and Jed Beaton, and they're dominating. Was that sort of what you were expecting coming into the season?
Yeah, absolutely. That was Beaton and Ferris were battling it out last year because Webster was injured, and he come back at the last round and shown he was fast. So I think everyone kind of knew it was going to be a 2-horse race. I don't think everyone was going to pick it was going to be this close.
Yeah.
But those boys are, as you've seen, Crawford and that, a few of those boys can run with them early or can kind of run that pace. But after that 30 minutes, I think it's clear that they're going to be 1-2 in pretty much every race this year.
Yeah, well, we're going to get Kyle on a little bit later, but so we can sort of ask him what it's been like. But I feel like those two have found a level of comfort in a pace that is right on the edge of their comfort zone, and they're actually finding a way to be consistent at that speed, which is it's really hard to match unless you want to push the envelope for the other riders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think you can go much quicker on a bike on some of these tracks because they are on the envelope.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, we've seen Ferris drop out through injury. I think he might be back for one or two of the last two rounds. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything. I know he had a broken hand at Maitland, so depending on how well that's healing up and what his plans are for the rest of the year could be a major thing. I did see Matt Moss has signed with CDR for Supercross.
Yeah, yep.
So I assume that means he's not racing Supercross, so potentially he may be done for the year. Hopefully he's back out there, but
yeah, I thought I saw a post, but I guess my question was going to be, do you think he can be a bit of a cat amongst the pigeons and play a bit of spoiler in the championship, or because personally I think he's not going to be able to match that pace of those top guys at the moment.
No, especially coming off an injury like the way he has, I don't think he can quite. I think Crawford's going to be really the only one, and I mean Wilson Todd is coming back, so I know he's freaky fast. So I think if he gets a start, Queensland boy, at one of these last two rounds, I think
he could be the spoiler.
I think he may be. I think he may. Not saying there's any team orders, but let's just say he may put elbows up for a certain individual.
Yeah. What's your thoughts been on Luke Clout and on the Empire Cowie? I thought he would be up there. He's definitely had the bursts of speed. I guess it's just been consistency that's been his nemesis, I think. And obviously there's been a few mechanical issues with those Empire Cowies, which are unfortunate. But what are your thoughts been on Cloudy's season so far?
I think it's just Cloudy being himself. He's struggled with consistency his whole career, or his whole 450 career.
Yeah.
It was good to see him piece it together that 1 year to get the title, but unfortunately, he's been fast. He's been up there for Super Poles and in motos, but he just is pushing that limit, trying to keep with those front two, and I think he was obviously riding not out of his skin, but I think that thing steps out on him here, there, when he's not quite ready for it.
Yeah.
So, but I've heard he's pretty comfy on that Cowie, so I'm not too sure if it's him trying to ride on those boys' level and not accepting the third place, or you never really know. But yeah, I definitely thought he was going to be a little bit higher up in the field as well.
Well, I was surprised when I looked through the points. Like if you take out round 5 for him, where he didn't score any points, there was a crash, and was it just the crash? Yeah, it was just the crash. But if you take that out of there, he'd actually still be sort of in the potentially 4th or 5th sort of position on the points if he scored the same amount of points that he's been averaging, which, you can't think his first year with Empire on the green bike, you can't think that that's too bad. Obviously, he's going to, he's a previous championship winner and he wants to be up that pointy end, but you can't think that that's too bad. And he did really well in Supercross last year, and if he repeats that on the green bike now, he may go into next season with a head of confidence. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think I think now that he's comfy on it, Supercross will probably be his priority. But yeah, if he keeps his points for that one, and even Toowoomba, he was running third before he had that big crash.
Yeah,
that was actually a crazy off. That was one of the bigger ones I've seen in a while when he got back up and got back to 10th-ish or 13th.
Yep.
So, and then even when Kyle and Jed were coming around and lap the field, he stayed with them those last few laps. So
yeah, he was charging, running a bullet head.
Yeah, he was. He's got the speed, he's got the fitness. So hopefully these last few we can get some good starts and get the first few laps out of the way and try and latch onto the back of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the few Aussie riders that on his day can match some of the overseas riders in the Supercross. So I'd love to see him go into the Supercross with some confidence. That'd be unreal.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Speaking of the MX1 class in its entirety, and looking through the leaderboard, it's kind of a bit of an aging class. You've got Waters, Gibbs, Metcalf and Ferris that are sort of, I guess you'd say, towards the tail end of their careers, which, I don't want to detract from the fact that they are all still super fast, and they've all had podiums this year, which is unreal, I think, with the exception of Metcalf, but he was knocking on the door. So assuming that they're going to be sort of exiting the class in the next year or two, who do you think's going to be filling that gap? Because it's, the top 10 especially at the moment is quite competitive in the MX1 class. and there's guys that are, on the satellite teams or running privateer programs that are really knocking on that door in that sort of 7 to 10. Do you think they're going to step up to fill those gaps, or do you reckon it's going to be the MX2 guys that step up over the next couple of years that will be filling those gaps, or maybe a mix of both?
Depends. It depends the 250 class on if Connolly dominates, or because none of them guys have had a title yet in the MX2 class. So I think it'll take for Connolly to win. I think if he wins this year, which I assume he will, he'll probably want to defend his title next year. So I think there'll probably be a couple of years before those guys step up. So I'm hoping that, your Joel Evans finally gets a factory ride. Your Zach Watson, he has to.
He's unreal, yeah.
He's got to be up there. Luke Zielinski, does he, take over for Toddy? Does, I think those
Liam
boys.
Jackson.
Liam Jackson, what I mean? I think those boys are who the owners are looking at. Like, I think that's more the direction they'd go in.
Yeah, and all those guys have been in the pole shootouts this year, so they can all run that pace of that top 10. Yeah. And it's just a case of, I guess, doing it consistently, moto in, moto out, and through a season. So and the team owners know those boys can ride a 450 because there's a big difference between being fast on a 250 and being fast on a 450. Yeah.
Those boys are quick on 250s, but how well does it translate? So I think it might be time for some fresh faces in some factory seats in the coming years.
Yep. So what do you think is the biggest learning curve, I guess, when you're stepping up from a 250 to the 450?
I know they're now the same length motos, but to hold onto a 450 for that same time is nuts. Like,
especially when you're pushing.
Yeah. Like I can finish my 250 motos at Nationals in decent enough fitness. But I do a 20-minute moto at the state titles on a 450 and I'm gasping for air. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's just so much more bike under you. You ride them different. You know what I mean? You have your exceptions, your Crawfords, your Clouts, your Barshes that rev the neck out of them. But you've kind of got to take a little bit more of a smoother style, kind of flow a bit better. So
set yourself up a bit better too, because the extra weight and inertia in those things, like you got to set your corners up. You can't manhandle them like a 250.
Exactly. And not that anyone in the MX2 class is small, but a few of those boys, you put them on a 450 and I think it might be a rough 25 plus 1.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the questions I have about MX2, like you said. Some of those guys, they'd have to be 50 kilos ringing wet, I reckon, and stepping up, they smash it on the 250s, but stepping up to a 450 and the amount of bike that is, like, surely that's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, no, the only one that I know of, Jack Mather, that man is unreal on a 450. He's ridden pretty well at state titles in the sunny states in Queensland and things like that. So I think he's one of the only 250 boys right now that will translate quite nicely to a 450. But other than that, I don't think there's many boys in the top 5 that would think about stepping up. Maybe Munir. I know he rides one.
Yep.
I know he rides one over in WA and a few things, but I think the other boys are best off just keeping a 250 pinned.
Yeah, and hitting the gym in 2024 a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, our first guest on tonight's show is the red plate holder in the MX1 class. Cole Webster, welcome back, mate. I think we had you on our 3rd ever podcast at the end of 2022.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
No, unreal, mate. So, it's the obvious question, but how's your championship going so far?
Yeah, so far so good. We've had a couple average races, but nothing too crazy. But other than that, it's been really good so far. Yeah, probably my best year, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you had a pretty awesome year in MX2. Was it 2021? I think.
Oh yeah, got cut short there.
Yeah, yep. And then you had a few little ups and downs and a bit of a roller coaster ride, but you're putting it all together this year. So, what do you think the difference has been that helped you put it all together this year?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been up and down over the last couple of years, but I felt like in 2022, coming off the 250, I started that season out really well. I got the red plate and then had an accident and broke my feet, so that put me out, and I missed a lot of racing that year. So I sort of felt like last year that kind of, I guess, hindered me a little bit and probably just struggling with a couple things. And this year, I don't know. It honestly doesn't feel like we've changed a whole heap, to be honest. Like, especially with things that I'm doing. We've changed the bike a little bit, but just seems things seem to be clicking really well at the moment, and feels like everything's working really well at the races, and the boys have got the bike in a really good spot.
Yeah, when I spoke to you at the end of Coolum last year, I said, what sort of would your goal be to change to put you right up the top there? And you came back and said that you've struggled a little bit on the hard pack tracks. Is that been a focus, or has that sort of just come naturally with time on the bike?
We haven't really ridden a whole heap more. Like, we've ridden a bit more hard pack, but I've done a few trips to Queensland this year and done a little bit more racing up there, which obviously their tracks are pretty hard, and sort of snuck in a few days of riding either side of those trips. And I think between just doing that and working on the bike a little bit more with Bruce and Matt and everyone there, they've really got the bike in a good spot on the hard pack. I think that's helped me a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's been a really close year. You sort of haven't had it all your own way, as you alluded to before. I think there's only 7 points separating you and Jed. And you've been a long-time participant in the Beaton's Pro Formula program. What's it been like training with your closest rival in the championship this year, especially now that it's coming down to the wire? Is there any tension, or do you guys actually train together?
Yeah, we do a lot of riding together during the week. Our off-bike programs are a bit different, so sometimes we do stuff together, especially if it's a nice day, everyone goes cycling, or if it's a real wet day and everyone's in the gym together. Like, it's been fine, honestly, between Jed and I. It's not much has changed on my end, to be honest. I think I don't know, it feels like it's fine, during the week when we're riding, you're kind of just focusing on what you're doing, and then go to the races, and, everybody's there to win. So it's kind of just expected. I don't think it doesn't feel like we're at that point where we have been, too much, I guess, tension between us, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool, especially because some of the racing's been pretty close. Like, I think it was at Maitland. There was a few pretty aggressive passes. Maybe aggressive isn't the right word, but definitely competitive passes. You were both pretty hungry, and, we've seen that through the whole season. So it's been awesome for spectators, as fans to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, racing's racing, and obviously we try not to do anything that's going to put one another down, especially at Maitland. I made a bit of a mistake and went for the pass in one turn and didn't realise the two ruts came together at the end, and we didn't really hit hard or anything, but we definitely rubbed shoulders. But that's probably the closest that it's been. But yeah, I think the racing between us has actually been really good. Like, the passes we made on each other has been more than fair. So it's been good racing.
Yeah. So with there only being 7 points separating you, it's not really enough of a buffer to manage a lead. So what's your sort of goal for the last couple of rounds?
Yeah, it's not much of a buffer at all, really. I mean, it's same as every weekend, just going there to try and win some races. And I think that's what I've sort of carried throughout the whole year. And I'm just going to try and do that for the last two. I think it'd be different if, I guess, you had 50 points, and you were not in cruise mode, but you had that big gap to sort of not do anything crazy. But yeah, we just still feels like we're in the thick of it. So it's going to go there like every other weekend.
Yeah, nice. Kyle, I got a quick question for you. With the lack of Coolum on the calendar this year, does that affect your preparation? Because I know you can't really ever guarantee a race win, but you at Coolum was nearly the closest you'd get to a race win every year. So does that have much of an effect?
Not really, to be honest. Like, a lot of people have asked me that, but I feel like I've, ridden a lot of hardpack this year and won on all the hardpack tracks so far except Horsham. So it hasn't really bothered me too much, and I actually do really like QMP as well. I think it's a good track, and it gets pretty gnarly. So that's actually why I like it. It's kind of like Coolum, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about it too much. It is what it is. It's more so just a bummer that Coolum was a sick place to end the season. That sort of sucks. But yeah, as for the race, I haven't really thought about that part too much.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, it was always good to celebrate up in sunny coast, and not quite as fun this year in the Bow Desert.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be quite as nice.
It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. I was looking for overnight accommodation, and what do you got? Ipswich, which is about half an hour away, and everything's booked out. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's not that big there.
No, there's just nothing near it. Like it's
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I love the track though. So I'm looking forward to it from that perspective. But
it's a cool track.
Everything that goes with the racing is for the last round is going to be. I guess we'll find a way where people want to party, they'll find a way to party.
Yeah, I think it's only about an hour and a half from Goldie, so
yeah,
I think a few people
it's not too far.
might be going for a quick drive.
Might be going for a little bit of a trip.
Yeah.
Leading into Toowoomba, you went over to the US to race Southwick and Redbud. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, something I've wanted to do for a long time. I felt like we were sort of looking at doing it last year, but this year kind of felt like I was definitely a lot more ready for it. So it was cool. It was a really, really cool experience to go and race those guys in those tracks. And, you know, you've been watching on TV for so long. It was cool just to go there and, jump Larocco's Leap and ride at Southwick. I think it's something I wanted to do for a long time. So I was stoked to get the chance to do it.
Yeah. Is Larocco's Leap sort of everything that it's, built up to be when you're actually doing it? Is it pretty nerve-wracking, or was it sort of...
I think it might be more than what it's built up. It's freaking massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was big. It was definitely the biggest jump I've done.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard because it's blind. Like, there's just a massive wall of an up ramp, and then, the down ramps, it's got a lot more of a knuckle than what it looks like on TV.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I think it was last year that Roxon bounced off the lip, that just looked so painful to come up short of that.
Yeah, no.
It's a big jump, but it's cool though. Like, there's so many people watching around there. It's a mad part of the track.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but have they pushed the lead into it and made it a little bit longer this year? Because I know last year there was a lot of 250 struggling to jump it, but this year it seemed like everyone was doing it.
Well, it's just the turn used to be 180 where it is now, but now it's sort of a 90. So maybe you come up with a bit more speed. I don't know, but there's still like a bit of a roller before it, so you kind of lose a lot of momentum off that.
Yeah, yep. And what gear are you hitting it in? I saw an interview with Adam Cianciarulo a couple of years back, and he said he was hitting it in second. Is that right?
I was third, full gas, but you could definitely pull second off it if it's long enough.
That's crazy.
It's just flat out, really. There's no timing to it.
Yeah, yep. No, just as fast as you can possibly go.
As fast as you can go and pull up a little bit.
Yeah. So the bike that you were riding over there, was it very different to the bike you race over here in the ProMX?
A little bit. I had the same suspension, but I had some like different triple clamps, and the engine was a fair bit different to what I have here.
Yep.
But it was still really rideable. It was nice. It wasn't like a bad change, if you know what I mean. It was just a little bit different. But it didn't take too long to get used to it. I was lucky I got to do both press days because you don't really get to walk the track or anything, and there's no free practice there either. It's just one roll up and then straight into qualifying. So I got a bit of time to work the bike out, which is nice.
Yeah, that's good. Kyle, did the tracks form up much different over in the States than they do over here in Oz?
Not like crazy different. They were a bit rougher. They have a lot more riders there, obviously, and some of the hills and stuff are a lot steeper than what they look on TV, so they got pretty nasty. But yeah, it wasn't too crazy, other than they probably just the tracks are a bit faster, so the bumps are harsher, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
so a little bit, all the bumps are a little bit steeper and not quite as rolled over. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely looked at home racing against, some of the biggest names in motocross. Have you got any plans to sort of head back or actually do a season over there or anything like that?
Not at this stage. I would love to go back and do like the one-offs again if I get the chance to, or if like a ride or something came up that was, worthwhile. It'd be awesome to do it, but it's hard. Like, they're so full over there at the moment. Yeah. So if the opportunity came up to go back and do a few more, I would definitely take it. Like, it's not that hard of a transition. You go into a country where everyone speaks English, and it's not that much different to Australia, other than the tracks are different, and obviously there's a lot more people, but I would definitely go back for sure. So long as it works here and fits in with our racing, I don't think it's too bad, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, I know that you've spent some time over racing in Europe. How would you compare your trips across for each? Like, which would you say you gained more from?
Oh, when I went over to Europe, it was obviously in the peak of COVID, so it was a bit hard to travel around a lot and whatnot. But that trip was good because I was there for a lot longer. But I got hurt when I was there, so I kind of didn't get to ride a whole heap. I did a lot more watching, which I think I definitely learned a lot from that, obviously. But the American trip just felt like it was easier. You know, it's like I said before, it's not that different to home, so that's something that's probably a bit more of an easy transition. But I would definitely like to go back to Europe again and do it again if that chance came up.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad to hear. And has much prep gone into the 250 for Matterley Basin, Motocross of Nations?
Nah, not yet. That all starts. I've ridden one, done a few laps on it, and rode one the other day at Ride Park, but yeah, nothing crazy yet. That all starts straight after QMP.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to be or difficult to transition back to the 250, or is it something you're pretty comfortable doing and confident that you can be competitive on?
Well, I've got enough time, I think. That's why I'm going straight to America from QMP pretty much. So I've got plenty of time there. I think about 5 weeks to, just ride it and do as many hours as I can. So I'm always open to those things. Like, it's going to be a cool experience and it'll be fun and to do something different. I haven't ridden a 250 for a few years, so I don't think it's going to take me too long, but it'll definitely be a bit of a transition. But from the bits and pieces that I've done, it's always been fun. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay, so is American Honda going to be sort of helping you and supporting you for the Motocross of Nations trip?
Yeah, at this stage, I think they are going to help us, which will be nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, and I really appreciate you, calling in tonight. It's unreal. I do have one last question, which is not related to our ProMX Championship, and it's got to do with my co-host. So I hear there's a bit of a backstory, and that you nicknamed him Backpack back in the day when you guys were training together. What's the story there?
Well, basically, from all the training that we did at John's, he got the name Backpack because we had to carry him through all of it. So that was pretty much where it came from. He was hanging off of our backs doing all the workouts to get him through to the end, because otherwise we'll be waiting there for a bit longer till he's finished. So he got that nickname from that, which I think it suits. It still stands.
Yep. I'm not too sure about if it still stands. I'm pretty sure I got the red plate a few weeks ago, the weekend before Toowoomba. If I remember correctly.
I think he may not be counting correctly either at this stage. So it's all up in the air. The purple flag's been out a couple of times, but
yeah, we'll have to get Hancock on the case, mate. I've got nothing to hide, mate. Nothing to hide.
No, that's good.
All good. Well, thanks heaps for coming on the show, Cole. It's been awesome to chat to you, and wish you all the best for the last couple of rounds. Yeah,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'll chat to you guys soon. Thanks.
All right, the MXW class. What can we say except Charlie Cannon? Perfect season so far.
Yeah, I think it might stay that way, honestly, unless she has another QMP repeat of last year and something goes drastically wrong. Yeah, I think she's even got a 25-point lead. That's a pretty comfortable lead
after 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Charlie's 24 points up on Taylah Thompson.
Yeah.
You would just about say with 1 round for them to go, that's a pretty insurmountable lead, I think. Realistically, a DNF and a third or worse with Taylah winning. Yeah, which, look, based on previous results and her consistency and the fact that she doesn't seem like she has to really push as hard as she can to be in front, it's pretty unlikely that that's going to happen.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a case of the best of the rest. And we've got, I guess, a bunch of established contenders in Emma Milicevic, Taylah Thompson, TJ O'Hare, and Maddie Healy versus some up-and-comers.
Yeah.
This year we've seen like Danielle McDonald, Maddie Simpson just got her first podium.
Rode unreal.
Yep. Taylah McCutcheon's back.
Yeah, which is good to see.
Yeah.
Emily Lambert.
Yep, Emily Lambert's riding unreal. She's
152 stroke as well.
Yeah, it's unreal, like how well she's doing, and she's 15 years old.
Yeah.
So
It's sick to see.
Yeah, so she's a South Australian, and she's been over here racing the Vicks. So I've had
Awesome family. Awesome family. I grew up racing them. Grew up racing her brother.
Yep.
Juniors. So yeah.
Does he still ride?
Yeah, I think he just only state level.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been making the effort to come over and race the Victorian Motocross Championship. So I've had a chance to talk to her and have her on the review show for that. But she's one motivated rider, and she definitely has high expectations of herself.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So it blew me away. I think Murray Bridge was it in Moto 1. She got a ripper start, and she was running second for...
Yeah, I believe so. She was like definitely up there.
Yeah, 5 or 6 laps, and then she had a tip over, and I think she dropped back to 5th or 6th, and then in the second moto, she crashed on the start in the first corner in a bit of a
quite
pile-up.
a big crash, actually.
Yeah, and like I was standing in the first corner, getting those shots, and I didn't think she was getting up, and then she kind of got up, walked off the track, and then came back to her bike. They were wheeling it away, and she was like, get out of my way.
Give it back. I've got a race to finish.
And then, it just went out. So, I mean, with that sort of attitude and that tenacity and like that speed, she's going to be up, mixing it up, I think, with these, established contenders. So, speaking of the best of the rest, like, what do you sort of see with this class? Because I think, certainly the first 7 or 8 are very, very fast, and could any one of them can mix it up from that 2nd to 8th position.
Absolutely.
So who do you sort of see in the standouts here, and who's going to be next, or is there anyone here that do you think that can challenge Charlie Cannon over the next couple of years?
McCutcheon. I think Taylah, if she stays healthy, she'd have to be arguably the best bet. She's the only one that's really given Charlie a run over the last couple of years. She just got to stay healthy. Taylah Thompson is the only one that has actually beaten her.
Yep.
In that QMP incident, some may say she got a bit lucky with that one, but I'm not too sure what happened with her at Toowoomba, but she's clearly been the second best at Wonthaggi and realistically at Murray Bridge as well. But I think she just needs to clean up her racing a little bit. I don't know if it's just her trying to push a little bit to that next level to run Charlie's pace, but yeah, I think a few of those girls, if they get a good start on her, and I think they just got to run with her for the first 3 or 4 laps because Charlie's getting that gap, and then once you lose that gap, you got no chance. So I think if they start that gap with her and put a bit of pressure on her between the group of them, like if Charlie starts 4th and the 2 Taylors and Emma are in front of her, Danielle McDonald, they're all there. I think we might actually be on for a really good race.
Yep. Yeah, it's a shame seeing the season that we have from Maddie Healy because, like watching her early in the year at the Vicks, like at round 1 at Portland, she was on fire and pushing really hard, and she looked like she was riding with a fire in the belly that I haven't actually seen from her before.
Yep.
And I was really looking forward to seeing her have a ripper season in the MXW class at the ProMX, and unfortunately, it's just it's the nature of the sport. It just hasn't happened.
Injury.
Yeah. And. Yeah, we'll be having a chat to Taylah McCutcheon shortly. We'll get her on the line, but I guess she was the other one of the known contenders that, like you said, can have a go at Charlie Cannon.
Yep.
The other one that I've mentioned previously on the show, and I don't know how much you know about her, but just from what I've seen in rounds 1 and 2, she definitely looked like she had the potential to be one of the next big things in female motocross in Australia. But Toowoomba, she sort of didn't show that, was Danielle McDonald.
Yeah. No, I know she's been killing it on the off-road scene. I believe she's the outright women's leader in the AORC. So, credit to her there. But yeah, no, absolutely. She was, I actually thought Toowoomba would have been a little bit more her style.
Very technical track.
Very technical, ruddy track. I don't really know the exact tracks they're riding on the off-roads and things like that, but I kind of thought that would have played into her forte a little bit, and it clearly didn't. She appeared to struggle on the weekend. I don't know if there was any additional factors. I know she was just coming off Hatter.
Yep.
Don't know if she suffered a crash in that, maybe slight injuries that we're not aware of. But, no, absolutely. I think she definitely has a bright future in the sport in either motocross or off-road. Hopefully she continues to do both for a couple of years. But I think she will be quite good in the years to come.
Yeah. So looking at the championship points, we've got 27 riders listed in the MXW class. There is a few that have had injuries and haven't done all the rounds, but generally speaking, it's a really healthy lineup on the gate. So bit of a contentious subject, but I've sort of got my own opinion on this, and I really think that the MXW class should be billed as, arguably even the second class behind MX1. Certainly up there as an equal with MX2. In terms of, they're the best women in the country.
Yes.
And that would be sort of in line with other types of sport that we see. So on that note, I would like to see them feature in more rounds in the future, hopefully, and even more importantly in the short term, to get some of the TV coverage, because like on the broadcast, they do their motos before lunch and they're done and dusted, and I really think that's that they deserve to get that coverage, both from the sport perspective, to promote the sport, to get more women riding at the junior level, because that's what'll happen is young girls will see them and realise that, hey, what are they doing? How do they do it? That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So it makes a future for the sport, but also it gives credit to the fact that, like I said, they're the best female motocross riders in the country. They put just as much effort in as the guys, and so for them to not get any TV coverage, I think is not quite right. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a low ball, honestly. Like, they're making all the effort to attend these nationals, which isn't a cheap feat, And one of the benefits of racing nationals is that you get to represent your sponsors on national television, which is, one of the main reasons we get help from our sponsors, and they can't even do that. So, I'd definitely argue that they should definitely be getting TV time. I'd even argue as saying that they should replace the first MX1 moto.
Yep.
I think you replace that, you put that before lunch, have the girls' first one to open up the TV, or you want to start with
MX3.
Yeah, however you want to start it. But, that's because it's great racing. The girls are going at it. They had some great battles down at Toowoomba. They've had great battles all year. Yes, Charlie's a little bit ahead of the rest, but if you've seen the 450 class, Kyle and Jed are gone at half the rounds. You could nearly argue that's the most boring class out there, and they're the ones getting the two laps. If that's what you're arguing, is that it's the entertainment purposes. Well, because you got the best men in the country, and then you've got the best women as well. So,
no, totally. So, it's cool that you're on board with that, and I think they would get a lot of support in that. So, in terms of setting it up, assuming that we can't have any more TV time, I hadn't really thought about it the way you just mentioned it, about having one race from each class, or one moto from each class at the telecast. I'd sort of thought, well, let's cut the MX3 because they're going to get their time. They're all up and comers.
Yep.
But at the same time, MX3 often has some of the best races and most closely contested races of the championship. So I think what you've suggested is pretty cool. Like, to have one of each class over the TV telecast would be awesome. Obviously, finishing with Moto 2 of the MX1 class.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a cool way to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, not to go against your cutting of the MX3, and I understand your point, but I feel like the MX3 and the women's and those guys that are kind of struggling with the support as compared to the factory, or half the field in the MX2 and the MX1 class, I feel like those guys, to help achieve more sponsors in the sport and get better help, if you're racing on TV, that's a great way to help get more sponsors.
Yep.
So I think those guys are nearly the most deserving of their TV time. You know what I mean? Because the pros, I don't think they'd really care if they weren't on racing. I think if you told Kyle, Webster and Jed Beaton they're one less race televised, they wouldn't even know. So, but you tell 16-year-old Billy that he's getting a race on TV, and he can tell all of his friends and his nan and his mum and,
his sponsors, which aren't always industry sponsors.
No,
they might have
exactly.
the local accounting firm that does their books, or the milk bar down the road, contributes. So.
Exactly. So I think that's, you get your little local towns all tuning in to see little Billy racing at Nationals, or little Ashley, who's now, racing the women's class. So I think that would be the better play, just purely on growing the sport, let alone, the sponsors for the kids.
Yeah, well, I to be honest, I hadn't given it too much thought, and that was sort of the first thing that come to mind. Purely, my rationale was that these guys are so young and they've got so many years of racing. But I actually think your solution it's the best, and I think that's actually it'd be awesome to do it that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So hopefully MA is listening, or ProMX is listening, and
Hancock just I'm ready for the.
I got him on speed dial, mate. After this episode, I'm going to have him on speed dial.
Awesome.
Yeah,
he knows where to get me number.
Yeah. So I do have another suggestion which we can talk about at maybe one of our going off track podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah, but we should get Hancock in for one of them.
Yeah, I feel like there'd be a lot of people listening to that one.
Yeah, that'd be cool, actually. Oh, mate, I reckon he'd be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All good. Well, on that note, I think it's time we get Taylah McCutcheon on the line.
Absolutely. Let's get her on.
All right, next on the podcast, I got Taylah McCutcheon, again, like Kyle Webster, who we had on earlier. I think you featured in our second or third ever podcast. So, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on your podium at Toowoomba. Coming back from some pretty horrific injuries, it was obviously a pretty emotional moment. It must have been a real roller coaster. Talk us through your day a little bit at Toowoomba.
Yeah, there was so many emotions that day. We pretty well, me, the team, my family, my coach and trainers, we all said, let's just go in, let's have a good weekend. And, our top six is good for everything I've been through, countless surgeries. And it was just mentally so hard, that whole injury. So we said to myself, we'll keep it safe, we'll keep it slow, and we'll just see what happens. And then, once the day got underway, I completely kept my cool, which usually I'd go ballistic. So it was really good to kind of mature up in a way, getting to the racetrack, and rather than getting so in my own head, I was able to pretty well take in everything around me and just push it to the side rather than letting it get to me, seeing the girls line up, doing their warm-up and stuff. Sometimes it can get to you a bit, but these past few months, I've learned so hard to block that out, and I can say that I've pretty well nailed it now, which is really, really good. So I needed that. I probably needed the time away to kind of mature up in a way, especially at the race days. I guess I just go really immature, and I forget that I'm racing, and I just go out there and blow everything away. So it was good to learn. Yeah, you'd say.
No, that's awesome to hear, and definitely, I think if you, which you obviously do, want to be a championship contender moving forward, and you obviously have that potential. I think that's a lesson that sort of needs to be learned. It's a very hard lesson, and you learned it probably in a harder way than most. But it's good to have that sort of mindset and know, how to control your race day a little bit. I think rather than be just taken along for the ride.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that's the biggest thing. You get athletes that know how to race and know how to practice, but when it comes to the big show, they turn it upside down. And I guess, I'm one of them people. I would race not too bad, and then I'd get to my practices and treat it like a race day, and I'd always end up on the ground. It's an unfortunate way to learn in a sense, but at the end of the day, I learned, and to come out P2 at Toowoomba after everything, it was crazy. I definitely improved and matured up heaps.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to dwell on it, but what actually happened when you had your accident, and what were your injuries?
So I was down testing in Melbourne with the race team. We were only a few laps in. Once again, I didn't warm up properly. I just wanted to go and ride fast. So it was just a big mistake on my end. I can't even really go into details about how insane it was, but the all outcome, I ended up breaking both my eye sockets, shattering my sinuses, breaking my maxilla, and cracking both sides of my jaw. So my jaw actually healed really, really quickly, which was surprising. Yeah. It must have just been like a really hairline fracture. but my eye socket and my nose and my maxilla was a big one. I ended up getting two plates. I got one in my eye socket and one along my nose. And then I've got 2 pins in my eye socket and 2 pins in my nose as well. So 4 pins and 2 plates and a whole lot of stitches.
Yeah, that I think that was one of the most brutal sort of injuries. You know, you did some posts on social media afterwards that I think I've ever seen. Yeah, it was pretty, what's the word? Like sobering to see.
Gruesome.
Yeah, gruesome. Oh,
It
definitely
was-
gruesome.
It was disgusting. But the thing is, so when I was taken to the hospital, my camera got taped up, so I wasn't allowed to see my face.
Yep.
Because at first, what I do remember is I thought I just kind of broke my nose, and then they taped up my camera, and I'm like, no, that's weird. Like that's not just a broken nose. And then this really, really nice nurse was like, all right, I'll give you 10 seconds. I was like, okay, perfect. She gave me the 10 seconds to look at it. I took a quick photo, and yeah, that was pretty well lit. And I saw it, and I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that is gross. And then I went straight into plastic surgery. I ended up with, I couldn't even tell you how many stitches I ended up getting. But I got a few internals and obviously a bunch on the outside. And then I got the one just next to my nose as well. So it was just, it was crazy. There was so much going on.
And so, you know, obviously with all that sort of stuff going on, and I think I heard somewhere that you only had one gate drop before Toowoomba. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I raced Queensland about 2 weeks prior to that.
Yeah.
And then I was straight into the Nationals.
Yeah. So with all that stuff going on, what was harder to sort of recover from in terms of getting back to racing? Was it the physical or the mental stuff?
Mentally, 100%. Like physically, even now, I do struggle sometimes. My goggles sometimes push on my eye sockets, like on the plate.
Yep.
And it does hurt, or like if a rock hits it or just anything like that. Like on the weekend, I had a rock hit like my goggles and it just put a bit of pressure on my face and my eye just bruised that easy. But that wasn't even like the worst side of it. The worst was mentally. It was exhausting. It literally felt like it was just a never-ending roller coaster. I would feel so good, and then the next day I would be depressed. I would be upset. I didn't really know how to take anything.
Yeah.
So the mental side of it was so hard. I couldn't even explain to anybody how hard it truly was. You know, you go through injuries and it's like you'll be fine in 6 to 8 weeks, but this one was like, will I ever be fine? Will I ever get back on the bike? Will I ever race again? There was so much going through my brain because, you know, even now at the end of the day, if I do damage these plates that are in my face, like I'm in for a lot more.
Yeah.
So it's obviously something I think you keep in mind, but it didn't stop me and it probably won't stop me. But yeah, other than that, like just mentally, it was so hard. It was so exhausting.
Well, I know talking to you, and obviously you've been racing for a long time, that you're very driven and motivated and driven to win. So coming back to race at the ProMX, did you have any lingering doubts, and was it a relief, like when you realised that you still had that pace to be running up front?
If I can be genuinely honest, I wasn't as stoked with my performance.
Yep.
My speed was horrible, and so was my racecraft. But after countless months on the sideline, when all these girls have just been racing and racing, I wasn't mad about my position.
Yep.
I think I was good, but there's definitely so much for me to improve on. And, you know, like this is the end of everyone's season, but the start of mine.
Yes, yep.
So I'm only just working my way up to where I want to be, and for them to have the 5 months under the belt that I didn't, and for me to still be where I left off is good. I just got to pick up that speed and my racecraft. Other than that, I'm not too mad about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Taylah. But I felt like even just watching you throughout the day, you look 10 times better every time you hit the track. So I think you are, as I've ridden with you quite a lot over the few years, I definitely think you'll be back to your fast self pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, I did I feel like my practice qualifying was so average, and then I come in and like my mechanic's like P3, and I'm like, what? Like, no, and he's like, yeah, it's P3, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not too bad. Like, we'll move from there. And then obviously that Moto 1 was a shocker. I wasn't even angry about it. It was just a simple mistake. I didn't set up properly, and then I crashed. And then that last moto, I felt like I was cruising. Like I literally felt like I was not even pushing in the slightest way, but I was just making it work. So like it reminded me of that day, Zane, at PBI when we were kind of just like, you know, tipping the laps away.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, like you get better every time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what was good for me. I got better. I didn't get worse.
Absolutely. You just look like every time watching you out on track, nearly every lap, you just look smoother, flowy. Like, yeah, no, it was good to see that you still had, obviously, that you still knew how to ride a dirt bike and you looked good out there, even though you may not have felt well. Yeah, no, it was still an impressive ride.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was happy. I'm not angry, but I'm not super happy.
Yeah.
I'm not stoked, but I mean, P2, yes. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I think that's the nature of the sport. You can't be competing at that sort of high level and be satisfied, I think. You know, otherwise you wouldn't be where you are. It's just the nature of the sport. Yeah.
I believe there is always going to be someone better than you, and that's what's going to make you better. So, to be honest, it was good to have the girls like really close together. Obviously, you know, Charlie took off and she was gone. She got great starts. But I feel like, you know, the more races I get under my belt and stop my injuries, I'll be in that championship position. Hopefully next year if I can stay healthy and actually keep it on two wheels. Yeah. That's the biggest thing at the moment.
Yeah. So on that note, you know, some riders won't watch, you know, when they're not on the bike and they can't ride, they won't watch the racing. Is that you, or have you been watching all the MXW races that we've had so far?
When I was off the bike, I didn't watch anything. Didn't want to watch it. Didn't want to hear about it. Every weekend, I wouldn't go on my phone. Didn't care at all. Then the moment I got on the bike after Toowoomba actually, I have studied that Moto 2 and the Moto 1, I think like 5 or 6 times to see where I'm slower.
Yep.
I feel like it's just, I feel like it's a part of the sport. You know, you've got to study your competitors, and I feel like I have done that lately, which is good. I know where you know other people are better than me, and so yeah, it's just something for me to learn on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with learning from Toowoomba, and you obviously not being super stoked with your riding, is there any expectations coming into the last 2 rounds, or are you still leaving the page quite blank to see where you end up?
That one.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. I have no expectations whatsoever. To you know end up top 4 again would be stoked. These girls are riding good, so I've got to accept that. And I do. It's good to be beaten sometimes. Obviously not all the time, but in the stage and the position that I'm in, it's good to get second. It's good to get third because it obviously shows where you're weak. So yeah, no expectations. Just go in, have fun, and stay calm. That's my biggest thing at the moment.
Yeah.
Is just remaining calm the whole day from practice quali to Moto 2. Just you know, keeping it safe, keeping it smart. If I feel stupid, tame it down a little bit. It really doesn't matter. I'm not in a championship position. So yeah, just to walk out healthy and have something to work on. Obviously, is you know the top plan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you staying calm's been a goal of yours for quite a while now, as you do like to get pretty excited on race day.
It has been the biggest goal of mine for ages, and it sucks I had to learn this way.
Yeah.
But it's a blessing in disguise, I guess. Everything happens for a reason. I guess that was truly my reason.
Exactly. It's good to hear that you're back on the bike and feeling good.
Yeah, it's great to see you out there. Yeah,
Thank you.
Sure. No worries.
Oh, good.
Well, it is getting really late, and I know from our text messages you've had a big day, so won't keep you any longer. But thanks heaps for coming on, and look forward to seeing you at the. Are you going to be at both the last couple of rounds?
I'll be training the weekend of MX Farm.
Yep.
I'll definitely be doing some riding, trying to do as much as I can now, and then obviously we go racing that following week. So it's just ride time, get on the bike, do gym. Just cruise along.
Nice. All good. Well, good luck with it, and we'll catch you at QMP.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
No, thank you.
Been a pleasure.
All right. See you guys.
See ya. All right, well, we might as well move over to the MX2 class then. So it's apart from a bit of a speed bump at Maitland, it's been the Brodie Connolly show this year, which, I think a lot of people call that coming into the year. He can ride in every type of condition and do it well and win races in every type of condition. What's your thoughts been on Brodie so far this year?
He's been unreal. I knew he was going to be good this year. I think everyone did, but I can definitely say with confidence I didn't think he was going to dominate like he has. I don't think he's lost one overall. I think I definitely did. I thought he would win maybe 3, maybe 4.
Yep.
Not to be, And realistically, the one he lost, if it wasn't for that start straight crash, does he lose it? So it's taken a fair bit to him not to get the overall, and he's just, first, second every weekend. So it's hard to beat that.
Yeah, well, I actually had a question for you of do you think he'd be this far ahead of Fergo and Ryder Kingsford? Because I definitely wouldn't have. And it's been pretty impressive. I know Uri's been singing his praises for the last couple of years as far as his work ethic goes, his skill on a motorcycle and just his attitude in general. And obviously that's sort of paying dividends this year with his results.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to train with Brodie on an 85 at Moss Institute for Supercross probably 7-8 years ago now. And I was only there for 3 or 4 days, and he was up at the crack of dawn running. He was, even at the ages of probably 14, 15 back then, and he was on another level for a 15-year-old at the time. And you kind of knew that he was going to do some serious things on a dirt bike.
Yeah. It's you don't get a lot out of him when you talk to him. He's got some pretty, he's good at giving the shortest, most concise interviews, but still being, a good interviewee. But he's very concise. He doesn't give you a lot. He doesn't chat a lot especially when you're doing interviews with him. Is he the kind of guy that just loves to ride dirt bikes, or he's like super driven to succeed, or is it a mix of both? Because I sort of see in everyone that does well, they're one of those two. They're either just win at all costs, and that's what drives them to train and hit the road at 4 a.m. and do all those things, or they just love riding.
I think he just loves riding. I don't know him that well personally, but I know that he loves. He's talked about how he loves riding his dirt bike. Have you seen him throw whips? He's a very skilled man on a dirt bike, and if I was that skilled, I don't reckon I'd ever get off one. But I think he just is a guy that loves riding and is more than happy to put in the work to be first.
Yeah. And what I guess makes his achievements this year so far even more impressive, in my opinion, the MX2 class in the ProMX is the deepest class by far. You're probably a little bit biased because you have to race against these guys, but is that something you'd agree with? Because if I look at through the top 10 or even the top 20 in this class, if any one of those guys in the top 20 won a race, or certainly, was on the podium, I wouldn't be surprised. I think every single one of those guys in the top 10 is capable of at least being in a podium contender.
I think I definitely agree, and I think that's what's made Brodie's ride this year so much more impressive, is that he's not, on his bad days, he hasn't, gotten to 7th in such a stacked field. He keeps going all the way back through. But I definitely think it's the most stacked field in the group. You look at the top 20 times at every qualifying, and 5 seconds separates first to 20th. 450 class, that's your top 10. Yeah. So So it's definitely, I think, no bias to you at all, but I think everyone in that MX2 class is unreal. But definitely I think it has to be the stacked field, because there's probably 5 or 6 guys that are injured and haven't been racing these last couple of rounds, and still the top 20 stacked. So,
I think it's pretty promising for the years to come of what Australian motocross is going to look like, because, assuming that most of these guys eventually step up to MX1, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even make a prediction that what motocross in Australia is going to look like in 5 years' time, because it's going to be stacked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hope the sport really grows over the next few years, and kind of we take Australian motocross back up to the level it was. I definitely think that this is our chance to grow. And then with things like the MXGP coming to Darwin and a few things like that, and a few big events, I think we're going to put Australia back on the map in the world of motocross.
Yeah, and WSX hitting West Australia too. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So one other name that I did want to mention in the MX2 class was Caden Minier. He obviously had that horrific arm brake at the end of at the start of Supercross last year, and yeah, I actually, I've watched him on track. He looks impressive. He's growing and seems to be improving with each round. But I wasn't actually aware of just how high up in the points he's actually got himself. So he's currently running in 4th place, but he's only 5 points back from second.
Yeah, wow. So that's, yeah. No, so he's definitely, I think he's been saying since Murray Bridge, or even Gilman, where he started to find form, I believe, that he's now back to where he should be, back to where he wanted to be after that bad arm injury, because as a man who's also broken his humerus like that, it's not a nice one. That took me ages to come back from that. So to see him at Wonthaggi at the level he was impressive. So yeah, keen to see how he goes at these last two.
Yeah, I think as far as if you look through the names as there being a standout or the potential of being a standout in the future, I could see him winning championships. I think he's just got the complete package, like we sort of said about Brody earlier. I think he's got the ability to do it in all conditions and the consistency and the speed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's dominated since a junior, so wouldn't be surprised if he is a multi-time Australian champion.
Yeah, is there any guys in MX2 that you think should be should have been higher up in their results this year?
Reese Budd, honestly. Sorry, Reese Budd. I was gonna say no one really comes to mind. Reese Budd was the only other one that I really thought was going to be in the championship fight. I kind of thought Fergo, Connolly, Reese Budd. And yeah, I don't know if it's the jump to the Husky that's hurting him, or if he's just not quite at where he thought he was going to be, or if everyone else has just stepped it up a level. But I definitely expected Reese Budd to either be winning races or at least having the speed to battle for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I also thought that Jack Mather, you already mentioned him, but that he'd be higher up, especially after, the performance he put on in the MX3 class. I thought he'd be at least sort of pushing knocking on the door of the top 5. So, what are your sort of thoughts as to why just because it's such a stacked field and it's a big step up, or?
I think it's just, and I think half of it's confidence. I think, those boys that are knocking on the door of the podium a little bit more regularly know they are there, believe they should be there, where when, for example, Jack's been getting tense all year, I think it's a little bit of self-belief that I think he just needs a good start and kind of have 1 or 2 races up there and go, okay, I can do this, and believe. But I think, confidence is the biggest issue for those guys that are 5 to 12.
Yep.
That's, I think, the biggest thing holding them back from knocking on the podium.
Yeah, and the other one, I guess I wanted to mention, because his results on paper definitely don't show his ability and even his speed on the track, was Reed Taylah. So, what a nightmare of a season he's had so far.
Yeah, no, he's either been, he won a moto at a Maitland and then didn't finish the other 2, unfortunately. So, what could have been an overall there, and I know he was really fast at Toowoomba, put it on the podium and a few other rounds. So
yeah,
I hope the team's got that bike sorted out. I don't know what's been going on with it, but that's a year of big what if, realistically. Definitely should be on the championship battle.
Yep.
Maybe not for the win, but second or third in the championship with a few more wins to his name.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of positives to take away though, because on his day when everything's been going for him and the bike's been, holding together, he's been up there with the fastest guys in that class. He's been leading laps. Like you said, he's won a moto. He's won a couple now. Did he win one at Toowoomba?
No, that was Caleb Barham, local.
Yeah, I know Caleb Barham.
And then Brody won the second one. And
okay, yep.
Yeah, I think he went 2-3-3.
Yeah,
2-3, 3-2 or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, 3-2.
Yeah.
So, but he's been up there for podium contention. So, again, maybe 2024 for Reed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he'll definitely try and rebound into Supercross, something he's a little bit more comfy with, and then go into 2025 with a head full steam.
Yeah. All right. The last thing I just wanted to chat about with the MX2 class was those penalties at Maitland. So, I heard a little bit about that from one of the officials, but do you know what went down there?
I'm not super sure as I was in the race, but from what I know, it was to do with the medic flag with probably a couple laps to go in the race, and I think one of the leaders, they come round, and I know the spot. It was just after you cross the start straight, I'm pretty sure, because you come out of a left-hander and there's a medic flag on you inside.
Yep.
And we were all drifting real wide, and it was really hard to see, actually. I nearly didn't see it, and I heard a few of the leaders jumped it, and, a few people seen a couple guys do it, and only a couple guys were caught on television with actual proof. So, yeah, I don't know the ins and outs and what actually went down, but I heard there was a little bit of controversy on if few people were getting pinned or if just a certain couple others. So yeah.
It's definitely an interesting sort of circumstance where you're relying on the TV coverage as well to enforce the rules. So I heard, like I said, a little bit from one of the officials before the investigation was completed as to sort of what was going down, and it was basically, like you said, I think maybe the fourth and fifth rider that went through jumped on the Red Cross flag, but they hadn't caught the first ones, and they thought, or it had been reported, that they had jumped the Red Cross flag, but there was sort of a bit of confusion over whether the Red Cross flag was up when they went through, when it had gone up, and whether or not they had actually jumped on it because it wasn't caught on camera. So I think they'd looked at the lap times, and the lap times indicated that they were going like full speed. They hadn't lost any time.
Yeah.
So they certainly hadn't rolled on the Red Cross flag. So the next question was whether or not the Red Cross flag was actually up. Anyway, it was interesting for it to take so long. Obviously, there were some protests involved for them to make the results official. But as we know now, I think the top five that went through all got penalised.
Yeah, which is then, does that affect overall podiums? Does prize money vary? Essentially, if it does affect an overall, do they have to give the plate back? Like, how does it all actually affect it all? That I don't know, as I wasn't involved in the incident. But I've seen they're also currently investigating an MX3 incident from Toowoomba as well.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so I think it's a similar situation to do with the results. I'd assume it would be something to do with that. But it actually reminds me of 2021 when they first Canberra Nationals 450 class. Matt Moss may have been the down rider, but similar incident. Luke Clout and Regan Duffy were battling, and Cloudy was probably 2 bike lengths ahead of Duffy, and Duffy got caught jumping under Red Cross or on yellow, because back then you couldn't jump on yellow on live stream.
Yep.
And it wasn't reported until the weekend had finished, and someone was watching it through, sent it into the officials, and then there was an official investigation. And then, how, again, they only caught Regan on camera, but everyone knew Regan and Cloudy were, in a battle the whole moto, but you just don't actually see the number 4 jump. So, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, did it really happen?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know the outcome of that one, but, yeah, there's a few times I think a few people have been pinched due to the live streaming system.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the updated amended classification for Moto 3 from Maitland, and it was 5 position penalties for jumping under the medical flag for Alex Larwood, Brodie Connolly, Jace Cosford, Noah Ferguson, and Reed Taylah. So 5 positions. It's a lot. It's definitely potentially going to impact the outcome of the championship for some of the riders.
Yeah.
So it's just tough. It's like you go to the state races and the regional races, and especially like at the state races, they've got quite a few clerks getting around the course, and what the clerk sees and says goes. They're taking it on their word. So I find it interesting, like that there could be such confusion and doubt.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
At a national level event, certainly to the extent where it's going to take weeks and it was probably a month, I think, until the results were finalised.
I think Haruki may have ended up winning that moto because I think he got sixth.
He got second.
He got second. Who won it? Was it
Ryder Kingsford?
Ryder Kingsford ended up winning it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Caleb Barham got third.
Yeah. So there you go. So, how does that work for those kind of riders? Because I assume 5 positions probably also affected the overall because I believe it was pretty close that weekend.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, yeah.
And that, as we said earlier about Caden Minier, like it being surprising how far he sits in the overall, but that brought him up to 4th in that moto.
Yeah. When, you know what I mean? That's from 9th to 4th? Yeah, that's huge. You know what I mean? That's a massive. So I think first to 5th is a 9-point swing. I mean, I get that Connor's championship isn't really on the line, but, Kyle Webster's and Beaton's only got 7 points in theirs. Like, imagine a swing like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I guess the moral of the story is, riders, if you see a red cross flag,
Don't jump.
Don't jump. But I guess that raises that question too is, and like sometimes these flag points aren't in the best places. And when you've got a penalty as harsh as a 5-point or 5 position penalty, like I think there is a lot of responsibility to have these flags in a position where the riders can respond and react in time.
Well, saying this, in riders briefing, every riders briefing at every national, we're told, first lap of practice, under yellow, spot the flaggies because it is our responsibilities.
Yep.
And with the new MA laws with flag points, they have to be 3 meters from the lips of the jump.
Yeah. Yep.
So, that if you got a guy 3 meters off to the inside of the track's 6 meters wide, all of a sudden I'm 9 meters to the left of him, and he puts it up when it 4 meters from when I'm from the lip. I'm not seeing that. I'm not. He's the least
Certainly
of my
not
concern.
reacting in time.
No. You think Toowoomba, I've got a 70-foot jump into straight line ruts. The last thing I'm doing is looking right because I think some dude has a flag out. And especially with flaggies wearing yellow high vis, I've thought there's been a few yellow flags out because you catch them out the corner of your eye. You look across and you're like, oh, well, fuck me. Like, just high vis. Like, I think they need to either put them in a blue or an orange but the yellow high vis in some of the flaggy spots is not a good move.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see what happened? I know it's not in Australia or the ProMX scene, but did you see what happened with that in Washougal with the Red Cross flag a couple of weeks ago in the AMA?
That I'm aware of.
I'm trying to think of which moto it was, but basically the 2 leaders came through and jumped on the red.
250?
I think it was the 250s, and jumped on the Red Cross flag, and there was no downed rider, and so they let it go. And I thought, geez, that's a can of worms too, because if you're on the down ramp or if there's a down ramp rider on the down ramp of a jump, you can't use the excuse that you didn't see him. So like over here, it's always been enforced. If the Red Cross flag is up for any reason, the Red Cross flag is up.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a whole kettle of fish over there.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. It's
no. Well, did you see when Deegan landed on, like when old mate crashed and he got the yellow flag up within a split second, and Deegan comes over as the yellow flag's coming out on the up ramp. He's already committed, lands on the bike.
Went over the bars.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And there's probably a couple guys not far behind him, but So there's always questions about that, but
so I think for the most part, I guess the moral of that story is that I think they do it pretty well over here, and it needs to be, it's something that needs to be enforced, because a rider going down on the down ramp and someone landing on him is kind of the worst thing that can happen in our sport.
Absolutely.
When it's happened, it usually doesn't go so well. So,
and especially with, like, as they said in Toowoomba, with the limited access, that meant the buggies had to cross the track a lot. So they warned us that there may be medic flag out purely for the medic for the buggy to cross, no other reason.
Yep.
But medic flag is for everyone to slow down and cruise through at second gear. So, sure, you may be unlucky, when you and the guy behind you get you and you lose a bit of a gap, but I mean, it's technically the rule for everyone. So I think it's as level as we can get to an even playing field.
Yeah. And obviously don't know what goes down behind the scenes, but I guess the one thing with it that I doesn't sit really well with me is the amount of time that it took for the results to be finalised. Like when you've got something, I guess, as dynamic as racing, I think the process needs to be fairly prompt in terms to determine the outcome, because that's the time period it took. And again, I don't know the process and the extent of the process behind the scenes, so I'm not being overly critical of the process or the people involved or anything like that.
Absolutely.
But I think, as a racer and for the teams involved and everything else like that, the system should be fairly quick and decisive.
Absolutely, because if you think, an issue with either the front two in this 450 class in these last 2 rounds, if they haven't made a decision by the end of that last race, there's a championship on the line.
Yep.
How are either of them supposed to celebrate if it's like, well, currently you've won, Kyle, but you could be penalised 5 positions. Jed, you haven't won it yet. Kyle could be penalised 5 positions. So you guys are going to have to wait the next 4 weeks. Once we have made a decision, then you can celebrate your championship.
So what happens if this happens in the last round?
This is,
and apparently they're going to be awarding the trophies on the day.
On the day, so because there's nowhere to realistically go. So I don't know. They're going to have to make a decision quick. I don't know if they're going to bypass some of the procedures and kind of Hancock's just going to go, yep, we're going with it. So
Hancock's law,
and what he says goes. So, fair enough.
And I almost feel that's the way it should be. Like if the official says that you did the wrong thing, so many other sports, I guess, for right or wrong, and sometimes for wrong, they're sort of dictated. The results are dictated by the officials, and that's, I guess, one of the downsides. But most of the time, I think the officials get it right.
Yeah. Well, you think of baseball, which is a complete different sport, but the umps call strikes or ball. They have a screen that shows exactly what's the square, and it shows where the ball is, so they know exactly whether or not it's a strike or a ball.
Yep.
But it's the umpire's call. Sometimes it's a poor call and someone goes out on what shouldn't be a strike. Other times it's the other way. But that's how the cookie crumbles. I think it keeps it more, not essentially more fair, but it keeps the game more honest, keeps it more realistic.
Yep. Yeah, and at the end of the day, then that's the responsibility of the officials. Like my background in boxing, boxing is riddled with very controversial decisions.
Yeah.
And I've been in one of those as well, and I was on the losing side of a controversial decision.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel great, but at the end of the day, it's part of the sport. You suck it up and you move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's definitely an interesting topic, and I think something that will evolve.
I think the Maitland incident has opened a can of worms that will be dissected very quickly, I think.
Yep.
I think it's one of those ones that I think it was a first where they've gone, okay, how are we going to deal with this? Okay, we did it like this. How are we going to deal with it next time?
Yeah, how are we going to make it better?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that's all you can ask for
Yeah.
From any sort of governing body or...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And shout out MA. I think they're pretty good at doing stuff like that, as they've evolved pretty well throughout the series as it has been. So,
yeah. There's, we've said it about the tracks, the track prep.
Improved.
This whole year has been pretty well run. Yeah. The only other thing, which I'd been critical of in one of our previous shows was the approach towards riders getting their, knocking their heads and stating on their social media that they...
rang their bell or that they've, been dazed.
Exactly. And MA have come out today with a new concussion protocol.
Yeah, that's... As much as it sucks, it's best. It's the best move for us riders.
Yeah, and it's progressive,
Yeah.
Any governing body that can evolve with the sport and the times rather than stick to what becomes eventually an archaic set of rules that don't work. It's really amicable to be able to see that they're doing their best, and I think it makes for a better sport and obviously keeps you guys as safe as possible in a sport that has its risks.
And I get us motocross riders, we're a little bit on the tougher side and that we ride through injuries at whatever, but I feel like those head injuries where you're not just putting yourself at risk if you're not in complete control. There's another 39 riders on the field, or, if I dare say it, if you end up making an accident that sends a bike into a crowd. That's a 90-kilo bike.
Yep.
Heading it, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's, you know, I'll be the first to say that I've probably hit me head in races where I probably should have called it a day. And at the time, you know, you keep pushing through. And I think if I'd nearly say half the riders in the field have done it. So
100%. I mean, you guys are competitors, and again, you know, using the analogy of the fight sports, 99% of fighters, no matter how badly they're injured, will want to continue. If you ask them in the moment, do you want to keep going? They say yes, and it's up to the referee to make that call and go, actually, you know, you can't protect yourself, or you're going to be injured worse if this continues.
Yeah, and I feel like as well, just because it's not a pain tolerance. It's not like, you know, you've got a bruised arm and it's just, can you deal with the pain or something? It's the not only the damage it does to the brain, and I think it's for the other riders' health and safety as well.
Yep. All right, our next guest on the show is going to be Connar Adams. Connor's an MX2 racer with the new team this year, the Winner Motorcycles team. Welcome to the podcast, Connar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's much appreciated, and it's really good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, mate. So, just to kick things off, how's your season been so far?
Season's been fun. Like, you know, getting to ride every weekend and race at these ProMX rounds. Like, all I can say is it's just been fun. You know what I mean? And that's all I can really ask for in motorbikes. It's been a tough year. The tracks have always been gnarly. They always are at ProMX.
Yep.
So we've had some difficulties along the way for sure. Some technical disqualifications, and you know, just overall having some rough starts and all that. But you know what? I wouldn't change anything about it. You know, it's all about the learning, and again, you know what I mean? I'm having fun, and that's all you need.
Yeah, that's unreal. So this is your second year racing the ProMX, isn't it?
Just about, pretty much. Unfortunately, last year I was succumbed to a bit of an injury, so I missed out on pretty much majority of last year. So This would be my first probably full official season. Even the first time I did ProMX, I had to miss out on one of the rounds.
Yeah, yep.
So this is the second official season, I guess, and no, it's been a ball.
Yeah. So what's been your thoughts on the tracks that we've had so far? We sort of haven't had a bad one. We haven't had a mutter. It's been pretty good. They've all been very different though.
No, exactly. They've kept to their standards, and they've definitely grabbed the tracks from different terrains and obviously different states. Really good to see a good mix and bunch of track conditions and varieties. There definitely hasn't been one track just like the other.
Yeah.
And in terms of their preparation's been unreal. Typically in the past, like you really watch it, and especially with riding it in the past, they've been really wet and really, really deep. And that's expected with ProMX. But this year, I think they've toned a bit off the ripping it so deep and wetting it so much. And I think that's made racing so much better because, there's just a lot more lines forming. Like, especially look at Toowoomba, the latest round. You had like 16, 18, maybe 22 ruts coming down the Matterhorn into that corner. And it was definitely a hard task to get down there safely. But you know what? The faster you go, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier. So, the preparation this year has been really wonderful. Couldn't thank the clubs enough. You know, a big round of applause goes to them and the hard yards they do to get them ready for us races. So it's much appreciated to all the clubs. And again, the officials for orchestrating it sure.
I think that's one sort of fact that gets lost on a lot of the, especially the more casual fans, is that it's not like the ProMX organizer that does all the track prep and everything. It's actually up to each of the individual clubs. So, like you said,
it definitely is up to the clubs. Like for argument's sake, the next coming up round is round 7 up at MX Farm Gympie.
Yep.
And I've actually just been practicing there in the last week or so, and I met the family that's running the track, and what a lovely family they were. Really good shout out to them, and the preparation that they're having to go through in the coming weeks sounds unbelievable, and it's like that with every track. You know what I mean? Like I remember Horsham. Horsham's my home track, I guess, home away from home, and I know all the people there put in the hard work to get that track underway. You know what I mean? It's a huge effort for such a it's essentially one day experience. You know what I mean? And to show the amount of effort that goes into it, all the love and all the to make it what it is. It's really amazing, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours, a lot of sweat and tears, probably a lot of swearing, and no small financial cost as well. Yeah.
Oh no, not at all. Like especially with diesel prices nowadays, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is definitely big, but you can always support them. Go to the local canteens.
Yeah.
Give them a hand. Sign up. Pay for entry.
Yeah,
it always
sure.
supports the clubs.
Yeah.
So the more people we can get to view these, the more people we get. I haven't actually been to one before, but I'd like to go and, get that friend along, get them to come to the events, because when you do, the more we get people in, the more we can make it greater. You know what I mean? Every year it seems to be growing, and doesn't seem like it's been slowing down as of late. You know what I mean? I know the boys have been putting up all those banners and all that, and, shout out to them. And, they've looked incredible this year, haven't they?
Yeah.
I can't give them enough props.
Connar, which of the awesome tracks that we've raced this year was your favourite?
Again, I'm biased here. Home away from home, Horsham. I love Horsham. I'm a big fan of the gates they have there, mesh gates. A lot of the other rounds had mesh gates as well, which also were very beneficial to me as a rider. I really enjoy them. But Horsham, I know that track back to front. You know what I mean? I can ride it with my eyes closed, as they say. So I'd say that one was definitely my favourite. Though, if I was to pick against all the other rounds, I'd probably say Murray Bridge was really cool. Like Murray Bridge, that actual track there is very dynamic and very there's a sand section, there's rollers, good jumps, it flows very well, and I had some very tricky sections. So I think that one was really, really cool to experience properly.
Yeah, when you say dynamic, I was talking to Joe Stevens during the track walk, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if someone jumped across that split lane, like where they had the two jumps, and apparently Crawford did it and got penalised. So I'm always talking.
Trust me, we were all lining it up. We could see it, and it was so much faster if you did.
Yeah.
But we knew we would. So yeah, I think Nathan Crawford did it for the fun of it. You know what I mean?
Not to digress too much, but what are your thoughts, like Zane and Connar, like on that? Being in the middle of the track, like having a split lane. I don't know. I'm kind of, from a safety perspective, it's pretty. You kind of got to be careful about people going across a split lane. But I kind of like the idea of allowing that sort of creativity as well. Yeah. Well,
did you want to take that one, Zane?
Yeah. I'll take a bit on that one. I like the options when they, if they build if they have a built split and they let the riders kind of create their own lines. But I do get that the idea of the split lane is to, keep it separate so riders can make passes and things like that. And they've actually done pretty well all year with keeping split lanes even, which has been good for racing. But I definitely love to see them build one and just let us go at it. Let's see which is the fastest line that forms. But I'm pretty sure if we did that, there would be one quick line all day, and that's about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I almost think it's almost should be up to the track builders to make sure that, if they don't want riders going from one to the other, it shouldn't be sort of an option. You can build the track in that way that's such a disadvantage, or it's just impossible. But I think
that's the reason split lanes are such a crucial element to track sometimes, but also such a hard thing to get right, because as Zane pointed out, split lanes are perfect opportunities for passing, because they force riders to take deviated lines where they know they're not going to have to, block pass or try and make maneuvers on one another for the pass. There is actual, track for them to do so. But the difficulty as a track prepper is making that the split lanes are even and that not one side becomes more favorable than the other. Especially at Murray Bridge, I felt like the outside was a lot more favorable the majority of the time compared to the inside, which was with such a large steep jump out. It was quite slow in comparison to the outside until it got really rough.
Yeah, it kind of blows me away in the last 12 months how right they've got it and how often they've got it right. Like in the US and in Australia, like in the ProMX, when we've had split lanes, they have been really close. I think in years past, there's always been one that's been like massively better than the other.
For sure. Like, for example, I think the biggest or the most recent events, for example, was probably Wonthaggi split lane that we had 2 years ago, just before the finish line. Like, I don't think anyone really went outside inside there because the split lane finished before the next corner, so you could already cut across.
Yes.
And there's no point in going outside if you weren't going to have the inside favourable on the next corner.
Yeah.
So it was almost just made an inner bank, I guess, to
Yeah, it was just a massive
push off.
inside berm that formed up on that
It
one.
was, wasn't it? Yeah.
There's definitely been a few poor split lanes
Over
throughout.
the years.
Yeah, over the years. There's definitely been a few that after about third practice, I don't think the other line got used. But it's good to see. Like Maitland did really good with the two of them. I think both of those were fairly competitive throughout the day.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Mo Bridge was kind of competitive once it got rough in the second moto, but then everyone kind of switched back to the inside. So, but they've done well.
Yeah, Maitland was one of my favourite tracks to watch for that reason. And like one of the things, and I've said it before on the podcast, like when I'm taking photos, I get to see every rider do the same obstacle, one after another and one after another, and sometimes for 2 or 3 laps in a row. So you get to see how different riders do things differently, how they've used different technique or different style. And that was one of the coolest things at Maitland. Like some of those jumps, that one that had the, you could either send it, you could go the inside roller, where you had the single before the table. And there was riders using it as an on-off. There was guys sending it and going over the top. There was guys scrubbing the first one and then using the second one as a table. And everything, horses for courses. And it was just so cool to see everyone making it work in a different way. Like, I love it.
And that's what racing's about.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, it made, that track one of my favourites to watch this year for sure.
Mm.
So, as we sort of said in the lead-in, Connar, Winter Motorcycles, the team that you're a part of, is a new team.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the team to start with.
Well, yes, Winter Motorcycles, big shout out to them, helping me out for the year. They're definitely new to the scene this year, but they're definitely not, I wouldn't say they're young, I guess. We're pretty immersed in the motorcycle industry and have been for a little while.
Yep.
So we've got 4 riders on the team, myself included as the MX2 rider, but we have Jet Kipps as the MX1 rider, along with Riley Fusco. And then we have Matthew Peluso as our MX3 rider. Together we've been racing all year for Winter Motorcycles, along with our collective of sponsorships that also support the team. And we've been having an absolute ball. The team has put together, a huge effort to, really stand out, I guess, against the, a quote official teams, such as Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki.
Yep.
And you can see it amongst we're not the only ones, our Lear brothers have also a team that is out there, you know what I mean? Getting more of these quote privateer teams out there is really good because it shows that there's more avenues to get to the top, I guess, and there's people willing to support you.
Yep.
And as a rider to try and benefit and help out and eventually get to the top. And as much as I guess you could say that they're privateer teams because they're not official thingers. I mean, we're just as good as the big boys, I think, and just as strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having just heaps of fun. And no, I could not thank Winter Motorcycles enough for it. They have done so much for us. A huge shout out to them.
Yeah, it's a really, really impressive setup and program that you guys have put together. And I mean, especially with the support that you've got for the bikes, for the suspension, for the gear. Like, how long did it take to put all that together? Because, I mean, I would say, yes, you're a satellite team, but like some of the support you've got, in some cases, is probably better than some of the what we call factory teams over here in Australia.
Yeah, no, we look, it wasn't quick and it wasn't easy as much as people think. It was very abrupt. But I think this was in the foreplanning for probably over a year now.
Yep.
We really started to get the wheels moving. Really late, not late, like probably mid to late last year. Much the same time as now, I guess. Really trying to get the word out there and trying to see what kind of like Shark Tank and pitch it to the big fish and see who'd bite. You know what I mean? And we got some people called back. One of them being Gas Imports, who have of course sponsored us greatly with all their brands such as Michelin tires. We got Thor, shout out Thor.
The best gear in the paddock, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
We got Rock Oil, Brembo, Neck and Bars, Spy goggles. All of them, like huge amounts of offering. You know what I mean? To support the team. And then, like, for our suspension, like you said, we've got the Del Soggios from Italy, and that suspension is unreal. Proper suspension, which was from that sponsorship. We got the Black Hawks,
Fork legs. Yep.
Yeah, fork legs. I forgot the actual exact name. I do apologize.
Stanchions.
Yeah, we got the FKW. I forgot the actual name. It's just the name of them. But they are unreal, and they got fully dialed and set up in Italy for us, same as the pro teams over in Europe for us, and they got delivered and shipped to us. And those have been, unfathomably beneficial to our team. And then, through the distributor of Shock Treatment, up in New South, those guys have been unreal. And then, we've just like I can keep going, you know what I mean? Like, we got, Goldberg's Medical with the CDI knee bracing, keeping us, fit and safe. You know what I mean? There's, this year has not been without some crashes, that's for sure. And I tell you what, my legs are still safe, which is very good for me. Then you've got like all of our other ones, which was through Pops Industrial, and we have the Tang Tools. Tang Tools have been a good sponsor for us. They've supplied us with a bunch of tooling, not only for actually the race team, but also for the workshop. And those tools have been unmatched, you know what I mean? Like proper worksman tools. I don't think they get, not many people know about them, I guess, because they don't really advertise as much. I didn't know about them before, but, like now that I know them, I don't think I'd go back to many of the other brands. These things have been so reliable and so useful, especially trying to do some quick swap overs when we've had some problems with the bikes. But you know what? Those bikes still run good and true, and that's a shout out to KDM. KDM 3 Peter Stevens, you know what I mean? They've supported us, keeping us with our bikes, giving us lots of parts that we require to keep this team running. As much as we got to thank these guys and we show our appreciation, it does not come without a large funding, to say the least. You know what I mean? There's a lot of money involved, and that's why we got to show so much appreciation.
I'm glad to hear about all the awesome sponsors that have been helping you guys out. But how has it being a part of the team helped you out as a rider? Like, what are some of the differences that it makes that the listeners can understand too on race day?
Just the relief, I guess. You know what I mean? With these sponsors and the things they've supplied for us and helped us out with, as a rider, it's taken a lot of the stress of trying to figure out if you've got the right stuff, if you're able to compete with the big guys, because like you think that you don't have the right equipment, or maybe you think you need to, do more. But when you have these sponsors and they show you, like, you feel really, really upbeat about it. You know what I mean? You feel factory, and to say the least, and it gives you a good boost. You know what I mean? Like Thor gear, for argument's sake, it's say this unfortunately, but I shred through gear. You know what I mean? When you practice so much, it's often uncommon for gear to wear out as much as it does. And so by having Thor as a sponsor, they've been able to supply me a constant supply of gear, and that just helps me maintain not only looking good and feeling good, but also just being able to, constantly ride without having worries of if I, if my jerseys get caught or my pants get caught, or, or just minor things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it kind of just relieves a lot of the stress and kind of gives you a bit more confidence. So when you rock up on a race day, you kind of just get to focus on yourself.
100%. Like, as my dad would put it, when you look good, you feel good. And I think we've been looking absolutely schmick, just 100%.
No, you guys definitely stand out. I have to say though, with all the support you've got, like as a rider, does that add any sort of pressure when you're riding as well? Like obviously, it's very dependent on the relationship that a rider has with their particular sponsors and what each party's getting out of it. But like for yourself, and you know, you've got so much fantastic support. Do you feel the pressure when you ride, or that's really not you know, a big factor in the relationship that you've got with your sponsors?
Look, I think each to their own. You know what I mean? It's definitely, motocross is so much mental as it is physical.
Yep.
And, you know, having such big sponsors definitely can play a role into, you know, wanting to perform good or perform for them, because often more than not, it's conceptualized as you need to win to be good. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like sponsors, as much as winning is very good and, you know, can show off because more people are noticing because you've won. If you just support them the way you support you by marketing and, you know, showing them off, and like, to be honest, my results this year haven't been all that great. I've been really struggling this year as terms of like just trying to stay fit. I've unfortunately been very sick a lot of this year. Which has been a very hard thing to deal with. But look, I know that I do my best out there, and when I do my best, that's all I can do, and that's all I can really ask for. And the sponsors have been fine with that. You know what I mean? We've the way we show our appreciation is like through posting things and just showing off the things that we have. And you know what? I think that has been more than enough. I haven't heard a complaint from our sponsors yet, or, you know, I think an overall, like, we've just had an overall very positive energy towards riding this year, just really trying to have fun, not put that pressure on, because it doesn't really help anyone. And, you know, when you think you need to perform good to, you know, how do you say, like,
represent your sponsors.
When you think to represent your sponsors, I think that's definitely wrong, I guess. You know what I mean? It's not like you can do so much more without having to win, I guess. Winning is a big bonus, don't get me wrong, but you know, sometimes you don't, and that's okay though, as long as you know, as long as you still do your part and you know, show them off, and that's what we do here.
That's something I've said on the podcast plenty of times, and I really think that the view, especially like you see it even at the, you know, the state and regional level, the view that you have to win to be a good representative for your sponsors, I think is actually really outdated. And if you look at a lot of other sports, they've moved past that now. And you know, the reality is, and I guess the cliche that keeps getting used, is when you're representing a sponsor, it's far more successful to represent a lifestyle that appeals to people than it is to actually just be a winner. Like, there's obviously an aspect where winning achieves that, but for everyone else, because there's only one winner in each class.
Yeah, no,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah, you can be successful selling a lifestyle, and you know, that's what gets demand for sponsors and presents them in a positive light. And
like I said at the start, that's all we've been doing. You know, we've just been having fun, and it seems that people have caught on to that a little bit, and are also appreciating it.
No,
had a really at Toowoomba had a really good ball. You know what I mean? We had so many people coming around, and if you might not notice that a lot of the rounds, a lot of little kids running around with flags. Those are all from us. We give them out to kids to try and enjoy the day more.
Yep.
And you know what? Like, seeing them smile is way better sometimes, you know what I mean, than a trophy at the end of the day, to me.
Yeah. One of the best things I've seen, especially in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, is the number of satellite teams popping up. And like you said, the fact that sponsors are getting on board, these teams are getting support like you guys, it lets the riders have rides and be represented in a much better and more professional way for the sport than like privateers. Now, straight up, you know, individual run privateers, which is hard. You know, it's a massive investment cost-wise. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of work. You need support from parents or mechanics or whoever's going to fill that role for you. So, you know.
Oh, definitely.
I definitely think the number of trucks in the paddock has gone up by a fair bit. Like, you think a few years ago, there was probably, those two Yamaha teams, KTM, the Husky,
Honda.
You know what I mean? There was there was one or two of each main brand. I think there was there's probably 12 to 15 at Toowoomba. You know what I mean? There's trucks everywhere. There's massive, and even if there's not trucks, the T-Dub crew. Have you seen their pit tent setups? You know, there's a few people that have
100%
rocking heaps good setups, and they're representing their brand. So it's good to see that. I think it's a good sign that the sport's growing. So I'm keen to see where it goes.
Add to that, you know what I mean? Like at the moment, being up in Queensland, it's no shade of a lie. Like where there's so many people riding up here, it's insane.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Compared to back home, there's a lot more people riding up here in Queensland, actually. So it's just, it definitely is growing.
Yeah, for the listeners, you guys are based in Victoria. If anyone didn't know that, so
yeah. We are, we're all Victorians, but I'm currently up in Queensland.
Connar, would you say that it's a little bit due to the weather, a little bit warmer weather, or is it just that the tracks are more 100%.
Open? I think there's two factors, to be honest. And one, definitely the weather. Like I'm loving life at the moment. We've got 21 degrees, 23 degrees at the moment. And it's, so nice. And especially when I call back home to my mum and dad, and they're telling me about all the rain that happens. So I do feel a bit bad for them, but you know what I mean? I'm definitely not envious, to say the least. But I think the second biggest reason, and this might be like, I might be waffling a bit here, but I guess in Victoria, a lot of our tracks, would you say, Zane, open, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then they finish like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely right. Queensland tracks, I've noticed, all open 7:30 a.m. and all finish by 3 o'clock at the afternoon.
Okay.
So this allows the track to prep the track that afternoon for the following day. Yeah. So a lot of the riding is, already over and done with before the day is done. And so, people are riding and really early in the morning, and, it's beautiful weather conditions. And I don't know. I think it's a nicer way to ride.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. You know what
I mean? I definitely think the weather did play a big role, as the last few times I've ridden down here, it has been a mudder. But yeah, I think them opening early could be a big thing. With a lot of our tracks not really opening till about 9 or 10 potentially. And and then the other thing I'd say is that a lot of them are more prominently open during the week, or have midweek rides. You know what I mean? The most recent places I've been riding at are like places like, for example, there's a place called Willowbank up here. The classic Willowbank Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. Willowbank Wednesday. They have a whole day on Wednesdays devoted to riding on Wednesday all day. And, it opens 7:30, 8 o'clock, sorry. I think Willowbank Wednesday, 8 o'clock. It's prepped properly, officially. You know what I mean? Every 2 weeks, I think. And yeah, there's people from all sorts who rock up to ride that day. You know what I mean? And it's very rare to come across that, I think, down in Victoria, which is a bit unfortunate. But I think the weather plays a big role, for sure.
I think I want to move to Queensland.
Yeah, I know. There's a few people up there that I know have made the move, and it gets more and more tempting by the day. So
yeah. Back to the ProMX Championship, Connar. So if people haven't caught on by now, you've been up there since Toowoomba, and
correct.
You're sort of hanging out up there in preparation for the last 2 rounds. So what's your sort of week to week and day to day been like up there, and what are you doing in terms of training and riding?
Oh, well, being up here, it's a massive benefit, I think, so far, because my week to week is just a lot of riding. Given the weather and then given the access to tracks, I've been pretty much riding nonstop. So after Toowoomba ended up, I just helped my team as a bit of a lackey or a mechanic, washing bikes, trying to get things cleaned up from the red Toowoomba mud.
Yep.
And then from then on, so from Tuesday onwards, I've been riding. We got Willowbank Wednesdays. I've been riding Wednesdays there, and then some tracks are open on Thursdays as well. So I say as of last week, you know what I mean? The next round coming up is round 7 MX Farm, and they were open from Friday to Sunday. And I just went up there and rode for 3 days straight on the national track. it was unreal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trying to like real time riding on the track is really, really beneficial to him. And amongst all that, all I do is usually my whole day consists of riding. And because it's it's so early in the morning, I ride in the morning. I finish up at like 2:00. I wash my bike until it's like 3 or 4 o'clock, and the sun's still up.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. I know that I wash my bike properly. It's still warm, and then basically after that, I go to gym or I'll relax, go for a swim maybe, and then I'll have some dinner and repeat it all again. I think I've been riding just my week to week has just been a lot of riding and then bike prep, and that's all I've been doing. And I can't. Without a lie, it's definitely been helpful and beneficial to try and, lower some lap times and get more understanding and, really try and, make a push for some good racing.
Yeah, solid results. Well, what I'm hearing, Zane, is that you've got some catching up to do, mate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. By the sounds of it, I think I'm going to catch the next flight up and bring a bike and a suitcase, and I'll see you there, Connar. I think I should.
Too easy, mate. I got a bunk bed right here for you.
All right, I'll see you soon then. I think I'll make it by Friday morning.
He's just run out the door.
Yeah, I heard that mic drop, didn't I?
Yeah. No, it's been awesome having you on, Connar. And before we go, what are your sort of plans for the last 2 rounds, or your expectations for the last 2 rounds now that you've obviously had a bit of time up there? Have you ridden QMP at all?
I was riding QMP today.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very pumped, very excited for these last 2 rounds. I think this is probably the best or the most preparation I've had for a national, except for maybe 180 as of yet.
Yep.
I'm very excited. I really been trying to work on my qualifying times, because I think that's been probably my hardest aspect as of this year.
Yep.
So I'm really, really, really pumped to really give it a go and put all the practice into motion. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, I can't wait. I think these last 2 rounds are going to be really hectic, really, really busy, as they always are, back to back with a double header as the last round. Going to try to get everything sorted, and get the race team moving about, help pack up, set up and all that jazz, as you should do, you know what I mean? Try and support your team as much as you can. But it's going to be real busy. And then I tell you what, after Sunday night, QMP, I think I'm going to have the time of my life, just having a day off to riding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finally get to have a nice relaxing night off. Perhaps go out and dance.
I heard it's a pretty quick drive to the Gold Coast, Connar. Not saying that I will definitely be there, but I may see you out and about.
Quick drive, mate. I think I'm going to get in a helicopter to try and get there quicker if I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Quick question for you, Connar. With the few weeks that you have been riding up there, and the tracks in Queensland do tend to be a bit hillier, in a brief bit of a sentence, do you reckon that does translate positively to your motocross riding?
I think they translate positively, correct. I think they definitely do help, as it's just a different type of terrain that I'm not very used to down in Victoria. I think the tracks up here are very fast-paced and very, like you said, very terrain. They're very incorporated of the terrain. Just at Willowbank, for argument's sake, we've got the track is for your motorbike and all that, and we're getting up to like 108 kilometers an hour around this track, which is very, very quick for for motocross tracks typically, because that's usually 30 k's quicker than the average. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think it's been definitely a positive, because by training at such a higher speed or elevation changing tracks, I think coming up for these next 2 rounds, MX Farm and QMP, Queensland Motor Park, both being such hilly tracks as well. I can't say without a lie that it's going to be definitely beneficial.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad to hear that for your riding, and I'll see you up there soon, mate.
I can't wait, mate. You know what I mean? I'll see you up here.
Lovely.
Well, thanks for coming on the pod, Connar, and we'll catch you in just over a week.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be asked for this podcast. So no,
on this janky little radio show, mate. That's
no, mate, don't. That's not janky at all. Don't even like suggest that. You know what I mean? You guys putting out good word and getting people excited about it. So you know what I mean? Like it's better than anything. You know what I mean? I can picture. So no, you guys need to take your hats off and really, really give yourselves a pat on the back because you do a lot more than you think you do. So no, thank you very much. And it's much appreciated.
Pete definitely kills it with his sketchy radio host. So, no.
I appreciate it, mate. If it's the next best thing to actually being out there. If I had the skills, I wouldn't be sitting behind a mic. I'd be out on the track. But yeah, as that's not an option for me, this will do.
No, we love your work, Pete, and no, I can't thank you enough. So yeah, again, thank you, and again, thank you to Winter Motorcycles for making this possible for me. Can't thank them enough. They've really been the backbone to this year for me. It is much love and much fun riding motorbikes.
Awesome, mate. Well, we'll see you up where it's warm very soon.
See you soon.
That was a cool interview and so good to see what Winter Motorcycles are doing. So we've got one class left to recap. The Young Guns, MX3. So, this has been sort of the WBR class with a couple of spanners thrown in the works in the form of, I think, Deacon Pace and Jake Cannon. Yeah,
Ty Woods.
Yeah.
He's been up there.
Yeah, but 7 points separate first and second place in Kobe Hantis and Jake Cannon. And then there's only 4 more points back to Kobe Drew. So, what's your thoughts been on this class and how close it's been? Was that sort of expected?
Wow. Just wow. Like, MX3 is always packed. It's always stacked. The last few years it's been Jack Mather and Byron Dennis, or it was Cater Mini and Ryan Alexanderson before that. And there was, there's probably years past with great riders. It's always full of, young guns. But I don't think we've had a year where there's been, 5 or 6 guys that have won.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And every
Jet Allsop, he's been in the mix.
I mean, if he gets a whole shot, I don't think anyone will be surprised if he goes 1-1 at one of these last 2 rounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so many guys that could win it or have been up there and it's been awesome to see, honestly. But yeah, it's been great racing. It's been best battles of the year, I'd argue.
Yeah. So with 4 riders, WBR's got to be happy because, they've been, I guess, the most dominant team, certainly the most consistent team. And it's almost been that it's worked for them and against them because, all those riders having such a good team and such a good support, they've all been mixing it up rather than one sort of being
the main contender. Yeah.
The main guy. But speaking of being the main guy, Kobe Hantis leads the championship, but 7 points back, you've got Jake Cannon. And Jake didn't score any points at round 1, which put him at a massive deficit to those guys. So in comparison, Kobe Hantis scored 43 points at round 1. So, 8-round championship, 43 points to claw back from. And
he's pretty much done it.
Yeah, he's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
So, what do you reckon? Is he going to do it?
I think so. I think Jake's had championship rides last year. You know what I mean? He was arguably, again, if he wasn't injured last year, he probably has a title to his name.
Yep.
I think he's just a little bit more composed and a little bit more consistent than these other boys.
A bit more mature.
Yeah. Just they're riding great. Like, I don't think it's a speed thing as much as it's a Jake's a little bit more comfortable up the front. And like you said, I think it's Jake will put himself in a top 3 spot where I see Kobe starting 10th in one of them, or I can see a few of the other boys getting in front of him.
Yeah,
so
yep.
I don't know. Not saying that Kobe could come out and go 1-1, and I also wouldn't be that surprised. So, and I mean, Kobe Drew realistically 11 points back. That's also very doable,
especially with
how stacked the field is.
Yeah.
So
and unpredictable. Like they're young, they're hungry, they're not mature. By virtue of their age, but also a lot of the time in the way that they ride and
championship on the line.
Yep.
These boys will be quite comfy to throw some elbows out. Like, I think there's going to be fireworks at the last round. I'm going to be honest.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I'll be pumped for any three of those boys if they take home the championship. But yeah, I think Jake will. If I'm a bet man, I think I'm putting my money on Jake.
Yeah, and I mean, saying that with 2 rounds to go, like Kay Kingsford, 32 points back.
Yeah,
it's not an impossible feat.
No, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it might not happen, but if he goes 1-1 and all of a sudden each of the boys go 3-5, that's about 15
that's a pretty
points. You know what I mean? And that's not
a possibility.
Yeah, they could. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Deacon Pace, he came out pretty strong early in the season. Was opened some eyes at Wonthaggi, ended up on the podium at Horsham.
Even took a moto win, I believe.
Yeah. Since then, he sort of hasn't been up there, but he's been pretty impressive. He's running 5th overall, but he's a little way back. What's your thoughts on him? Did you know of him before this year? And
yeah. So he's a WA kid that I've known the name for a while. He struggled last year until he made the switch to KTM for the last 2 rounds, I believe, and he come out at Coolum, and I just remember him on this white Kato, I think, in this Fast Times gear, and was just absolutely swinging off the thing. He was he was riding sick, and I think he opened a few eyes there, and then he got this Moto 1 ride, which was good for him. But I definitely wouldn't have put him where he is, essentially. I probably would have put him in the 7th to 10th range. Maybe a great ride was a top 5, not putting it on the podium, definitely not.
Yeah, see, early in the season, I actually thought that he might be up there contending for a championship, at least contending for a championship podium.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit surprised to see him sort of drop off the pace just a little bit. And like that consistency. Jet Alsop, again, really, really strong early in the season. Definitely has the potential to be a future champion. He's another one that I guess whose results on paper don't reflect. Yeah,
he suffered a shoulder injury at Gilman, which was a massive dent to his championship. Because I think I didn't see him with a peak on at all at any point at Toowoomba. Every time I looked across at him, and he was rocking the bullet. So I think that's been a story of his years. What could have been. But I honestly hope he puts 2 good motos together, either this round coming or the last round. He deserves to stand on the box. That kid has put in so many hours over the last few years, and every time, I feel like we say this every year, is just what could have been for Jed Alsop, or he's there and then he's on the ground. So, yeah, I hope he puts it together.
Yeah. Speaking of sort of questions when it comes from results and then, putting it together on the track, Kai Woods. When he's on, and when he's not, he's not. But when he's on, he looks like a world beater. Yeah. And then for whatever reason, what's the story there?
I don't know. I know a few of the boys he trains with, and he's insane day in, day out. Yep. I believe he's even been spending a little bit of time down in Melbourne with the Beatons crew. So hopefully he's starting to pick up a few of the things from the older boys, and I think it's just going to be which one of these boys matures more. I think Jake's kind of the only one that's got a semi-level head on him at this stage. As we've been saying, everyone's pretty hot and cold. So
yeah,
I think one of them is going to have to stand up and, sort it out and probably take over for next year. But I think once he gets a couple more races under his belt, hopefully he sorts it out. But I think he'll be a little bit better these last 2, a little bit more hard pack, a little bit more Kai Woods style, I'd assume.
Yep. So which of these guys are stepping up next year to MX2? Do you know out of...
Yeah, so I know Deacon ages out.
Yep.
Rumour mill saying Jake's stepping up anyway.
Okay, yeah.
I know he's got 1 more year. Kai's got one more year. I think Kobe has 1 more year. Kobe Hantis. Not sure though. Cade Kingsford does. And then... actually, I don't know if Cade does. I'm not super sure with all these boys.
Yeah.
But I know Deacon definitely ages out.
So a few of them will be stepping up just to make the MX2 class a little bit more stacked.
Yeah. Sick. Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, those points are going to be harder and harder to come by. Yeah, I think you've got to step up to MX1, mate.
Yeah, well, geez, everyone else is as well. I think everyone's running from MX2 to MX1.
Yeah.
I think the fields are just getting more and more stacked. But yeah, No, I think there'll probably be 3 or 4 of them step up. I think Jet also has to step up. So yeah, no, I definitely think there's going to be that 10 to 20 range. It's going to get a whole lot more.
Oh, most definitely. And there's going to be guys in the 10 to 20 range, I think, in MX3 that probably step up that we haven't spoken about as well, just to throw a few more riders in there.
Just to make just to guarantee that they hopefully add points to 40.
Yeah. I guess one rider that stood out to me a little bit at Toowoomba that I wanted to mention before we move on was Deegan Rose as well.
Yeah.
He was riding really, really well. He's had a couple of really good rounds. He's been a bit hot and cold like all these guys.
Yeah. I seen he had an unreal start.
These rising motorsports guys, like even Brock Flynn in MX2, like so much potential. Zach Watson, obviously, in MX1. And
Travis Olander, who's got a lot of skill and hopefully puts it together.
Yeah. They're all doing really well on that note.
Yeah.
So whatever they're doing at that program and feeding these kids, it's working.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's another satellite team that's putting it up there.
Yeah. This one's throw a blanket over it and mix it up and stomp on it a few times and see what comes out. So, there's probably not too much else to talk about with these guys.
I mean, you could talk about this class all day.
Yep.
Like you think in the list of, we've probably named 7 guys that could win, but then you could name another 7 that could get third. You know what I mean? And then the list goes on. Like Caden Strode's had.
I was about to say Strody.
He's had 3. I think he's had 4 top 10s this year.
Yep.
And yet I don't even know if he scored a point at Toowoomba. No hate to Strody. It wasn't a great weekend, but
he scored a point.
He scored a point. My apologies, Strody. But I think this field is so stacked that when these boys have a bad day, it shows.
100%. Yep.
It's a.
Strode's had a really good season, like coming off last year where he hadn't scored a top 15 before this year.
And then started the year with a
7th, I think.
Yeah, he's 7th. I think he went 12-7 at Wonthaggi.
For 7th overall.
Yeah, and he got 7th overall at Murray Bridge as well.
Yep.
I know he's got another year left and he's planning on staying down. So hopefully he'll be potentially a championship contender, huh?
That would be very cool to see.
Yeah, so I'll be whipping him into shape in the gym.
Yeah.
Be having him flying in off season.
Yep, and then calling him Backpack.
Yeah,
you can pass that.
He's already got the new nickname. Don't you worry.
Yep. The gauntlet has been passed.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's have a quick look, do some bench racing towards the last couple of rounds. So obviously we go to MX Farm in Gympie for round 7 and then move on to the final round at QMP. So starting with MX Farm, what's your picks? What are your thoughts? Have you ridden there?
No, this is the first track all year that I've never ridden. I mean, I know no one really rode Murray Bridge because it was a new layout, but we've been there. But this is this is a first. This is my first time to MX Farm. I've heard some good things, so I assume it'll be a QMP style track. Heard a bit of natural terrain, kind of a little bit of hilly, big jumps. So I reckon it'll be a great track for racing.
I don't think it's got the elevation of QMP as much. But another clay track as well, like
another hard pack.
Yeah, so we've spoken about him and we've had him on the line. So in Cole Webster. And how do you reckon he's going to go with against Jed and even Crawford,
Yeah, well, I think Cloudy actually won the Sunny States there or the Queensland titles or whatever they held at
you're
MX
right.
Farm. So Caleb Ward rode well and Webster rode really good as well. So I think there's going to be a few boys that are up there. They're always going to be good. Webster's going to be, he's always going to be fast, but I reckon he'll actually... I hope he holds Jed off. I think, as he's shown, he won Maitland. He tied Toowoomba.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to be, I don't think he's going to rock up and he's going to get 4th. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think if he starts with Jed, he'll be able to stay with him.
Yeah, he had a very mature ride at Toowoomba too. Like in that last moto, he obviously got a bad start.
Shocking start.
Yeah, come through the pack. I think at one stage... it didn't look like he was...
I didn't even think he was going to get 3rd at one bit.
Yeah, but no. And then he passed Nathan Crawford
for second.
Yeah, for second, and there was probably too much of a gap for him to close, and he looked like he reined it back and rode the safe race.
Yeah.
Obviously knew he was going to match points with
Yeah.
Beaton, even if he didn't get the technical overall. So that sort of level of maturity, I think, it's going to bode well for his championship.
Yeah, it was a championship ride. He got up to second, minimised damage, happily would leave tied points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Could have killed himself to try get those extra 3 points,
Yeah,
but
but-
didn't, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's still goes into the last 2 rounds, 7 points up.
Yeah. So, as he sort of said, he's going to go in with the mindset of trying to win each race, which I think he has to. You can't manage a 7-point lead. That's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
Do you think he can get it done?
I think so. I hope so, but I definitely think 7 points, you know what I mean? He can afford to, if he wins the first moto at MX Farm, I'm calling he wins it because he can get second and then he can go 2-2 at the last one. Oh, no, there's 3 races at QMP, isn't there?
There is.
This one race may ruin his championship. Nah. But, Webby's, I reckon he'll get it done. I reckon 7 points is going to be enough for him.
Okay, so we've spoken about how dominant Beaton and Webster have been so far. Is anyone else going to win a race in this class in the last 2 rounds?
I reckon this is going to be the 2 rounds where someone does.
Yep.
I think this is Cloudy, big Queensland guy. He rode good at this MX Farm like we were talking about. Crawford. We just spoke to Connar Adams and he was saying that a lot of these Queensland boys are up there riding flat out. I think Crawford's going to be, we know he's fast. I think he's going to have the edge to, especially in Moto 1 where track's a little bit fresher.
Yep.
I don't think Moto 2, any of the boys are really going to have anything for Beaton Webster because they seem just too good in that rough stuff. But I think Moto 1 track's a little bit smoother. They get the start. I think this may be the one races where they would lose.
Wilson Todd?
He's coming back.
Yeah.
Another one. So I reckon those 3. I don't think anyone out of those 3 though.
How bad was that burn?
That's nightmare stuff.
I'm not squeamish, and when I saw photos of that, I must say my stomach rolled over. I was like, that is on someone's leg. Like that's a person that's still alive.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, as I'll speak from experience as someone who copped a Wilson Todd rear wheel to the face at Maitland last year. It is not a nice experience, and I think it got him a little bit better than it got me. But I could only imagine the pain. Like you think like a friction burn times a bajillion. That is.
And as he said, and you know, as the saying goes, the skin graft, the side of the skin graft is more painful than, you know, the side of the injury, and that was a mighty big skin graft that he had to have to cover that thing up.
Yeah, no, it's
I've had steaks that were less cooked than that. That was just
Yeah, it's just, and you can see the black outline on the edges where it wasn't burned from where the get ya.
Poor bugger, and somehow he seemed to keep a
smile on his dial.
Yeah, I bet you there was times that he wasn't smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, MX2 and MX3 at MX Farm. Any changes to, you know, the contenders?
No, I reckon, MX2, I got Connolly first, and then I'm calling it Kingsford, Monier, Ferguson, 2, 3, 4. The order, though, is...
I'm going to throw Reed Taylah in there as well.
I reckon that will be your 5.
Yep.
The order 2 to 5, though, actually, know what? I'll be funny. I'll go Connolly, Reed, Monier, and I think Kingsford, Fergo. That's going to be the 5 at MX Farm. That's my pick.
Yeah, I reckon you could be right there. You know, 2nd to 4th or 5th there, you could mix them up and you know, any of those are likely. But, I don't know. I think Reed Taylah, he's had enough bad luck. You can't have, you know, a bad luck that lasts you all season.
And he's come off a podium.
Yep. He's got the speed. He had the speed at Maitland. You know, he had the speed at Murray Bridge.
Yeah.
And obviously had some issues. And then he showed awesome speed again at Toowoomba. So his star's rising. I think he's going to be in the mix.
I'm actually even going to call him from Moto Win at QMP for simply watching him last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year he whole shotted our race and led. He was second for the first 18 minutes or something before he went down behind Wilson Todd. So I'm calling QMP Warrior. He's going to get it done. I reckon he's going to end the year with a moto win.
Yeah. And we sort of spoke about the MX3 class already. Yeah. What do you got?
Honda sweep, all 4 classes.
It's possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All 4. Yeah. Charlie
Reed's
Cannon.
going to be a happy man.
Yeah. Charlie Cannon until she went down and she bent her rotor last year. That was all over.
Yeah,
for,
pretty wild incident.
Yeah. Who did she come together with? That was Taylah McCutcheon.
Yeah. Yeah, Taylah threw it up the inside and their lines come together.
Yep. Yeah, and neither of them were super happy. I interviewed both of them
Yeah,
after the race.
yeah, neither of them were happy chappies.
Understandably,
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely. Racing incident and
Yep.
emotions getting hot and heavy.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's going to be awesome. So the website, the ProMX website, actually lists QMP as hosting for the final round, MX1, 2 and 3, MXW, the 65cc class, and we already know they've got the vets.
Old boys coming out to play.
Yep. So there's 65cc at MX Farm for round 7, which we know is happening. So I'm just wondering if, because I only thought there was two 65cc races.
Rounds, yeah. And that's a lot of classes.
So I hope it's not the case. I think that would be too much, even though it's a 2-day event.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And no hate to the 65 kids, but I feel like 65 at Nationals is a little bit of a waste.
Yep.
As those bikes struggle in those rough tracks. We got to get them out so early and, they're done before the track really forms up. I don't feel like they learn too much. It's kind of just a survivor around the edges. It's not really racing.
So you're not the first person that has raised that sort of opinion with me. And I think it's a solution. Like if you were going to do that, have them on a 2-day event on the Saturday, maybe the first opening race to get out on a national spec track, even if it's earlier before they water the track or get them out after lunch or something like that. But just have one feature event once in the season.
Well, they raced the 2-day at Maitland, and there was a lot of, I won't say complaints about the track, but there was a few worries, and then they changed it and ripped it a lot deeper, made it a lot nicer the Sunday for us big bikes because there was no 65s.
So you're saying that they didn't rip it as deep as they should have?
Yes, on the Saturday purely for the 65s, and us riders were then given a worse track.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, I could go down a rabbit hole here because, I think, you're talking about catering for one to the detriment of another class. And certainly at the amateur level and the regional and state level, that's a factor where you've got A-grade guys all the way through to, C-grade 50cc guys on the same track. But at the national level, I think you're 100% right. The track should be prepped for the
national
pro-level guys. And,
All for the odd 85 Cup. I reckon that's great because those guys are shredding. They're racing the track.
And they're capable of racing the national level tracks.
Exactly. The 65 kids, don't get me wrong, those boys are hooking. Lewis, Carafa, Mason Easy, all those boys up front, they're shredding.
But you're running 14 and 16-inch wheels.
Yeah, you're not on a national track, mate. There's a junior nationals for a reason. It's a massive event. That's where the juniors are supposed to have their national title, not a third party. Because all of a sudden, if you win the 65 Cup, what's more important, the AJMX 65 title or the 65 Cup Nationals?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you're doing a disservice to the other,
exactly.
whichever way you're going to do it. So, like you said, just have the junior nationals and leave it at that.
Yeah, save some parents some money as well.
Yep.
There's no need for them to go to some of these national rounds.
It's an interesting viewpoint. I tend to agree with you, I think.
Yeah. I think a few people do.
Yeah. All right. Any surprises for the last couple of rounds?
Not really. I think it'll be pretty standard. I think there'll be chaos in MX3, which it has been all year. And I think, my only real surprise is I think Reed will win a moto. I got a gut feeling.
Which, the way it's been shaping up might not be a surprise.
No.
Dare I say it, or I might have to edit it out. Would it be a surprise if the Empire Cowie went for the rest of the season without blowing up again.
Yeah, well, I hope those bikes are lasting good. He's hard on a bike. I've watched him ride a bike, and I don't think he lets off. I think he just fans the clutch on when he wants to slow down. So
the bikes do scream for mercy, but you could say that about a lot of the
bikes.
Yeah, especially the 250 riders.
Yeah, so I hope those guys sort it out, because it's not good for either Reed or the team. So
yeah, fantastic team. They're a fantastic bike, and whatever they've got going on. I don't know if it's the same thing each time or
from what I heard, there was a couple separate issues the first few. I don't know as of the recent ones, but
all good. Well, it's been awesome having you on the podcast again, Zane. Really appreciate you coming in and recording this one in studio. Next year, I'm going to be doing these, I think, for every round.
Yep.
So
awesome.
We'll definitely have you back.
Yeah, it's
time and time again.
Always good being in house, talking a bit of smack.
Zane McCutcheon, friend of the show and resident backpack.
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
So thanks, Zane. Thanks to our guests for this evening's show, Kyle Webster, Taylah McCutcheon, and Connar Adams. Thanks to you guys for listening, and thanks to all our awesome sponsors that help us do what we do. Bolt Everywhere, Death Grip Gloves,
Graphics by Aqua, Dirtworks.
We don't have Dirtworks.
Not the goggles.
Works Racing.
I nearly had it. Wolf Building Compliance, Motomac. Self plug.
Iro and Five Gloves.
Yes, Moto National, Iro.
Yep, shout out to Moto National. Big supporters of the show.
Yeah, awesome people.
And most of all, thank you to you people for listening. Until next time, I've been your host, Pete Wolf. See ya.